50 years of war to reach stage 11, the apex of an entire continent, and the only people who could kill him were the ones standing right behind him. He wakes underpowered in the body of a family failure with 1,000 yen to his name. Yaemori Bakuto was the apex of 12 cultivation stages. Now he's grinding from stage 1 in a frail body that shares his name and his grudge. No system window, no cheat skill. Just a dead god's muscle memory teaching a broken body what it already knows, while the modern world's hidden cultivators, crime syndicates, and the shadows of his past life all converge to finish what they started. The clan called him their greatest shame. They never considered he might be their greatest nightmare wearing a borrowed face. The clan's failure is a former Continental Champion. You've been warned. The last thing he sees is betrayal, not the Demon King's army, his own guild, his own raid party, impaling him from behind because some masked woman whispered the command. Classic. You grind 50 years to stage 11, you solo the final boss, and your reward is a back full of steel and a respawn timer in the body of a guy who gets bullied in remedial P. He wakes underpowered gasping in a classroom that smells like cheap floor polish and worse decisions. The bullies are already mid-monologue about how he's not even a young master anymore, which fair he's been exiled, his parents are dead, and his new body's spiritual veins are about as functional as a 2009 laptop running crises. But here's the thing about being the continent's strongest. You remember what Spirit Kai feels like. You remember the density, the texture, the way it pools in the meridians like water finding its level. The modern world's Kai is thin. We're talking Diet Cola thin, skim milk thin, K-pop ballad thin, but it's there, and he knows how to drink it. So when they announce the 100-meter dash and the track star Hokuba is flexing his record holder energy, our boy Yaemori Bakuto, spiky blue-black hair, eyes glowing like he left a raid boss on pause, steps underpowered with the confidence of a man who knows his soul is running at 4K while his body's still buffering at 240p. The peanut gallery is already laughing. They call him trash, they call him frozen, they call him the guy who threw away his pride along with his clan membership. Bakuto just looks at the track and thinks, first stage of cultivation, garbage body, 0 warm-up, but 3 seconds should be plenty. 3 seconds. For a man who once cleared battlefields in the time it takes these kids to check their phones. The starter pistol fires, Hokuba launches. Bakuto stands there for 1 second too, the crowd already cackling, and then he moves, not runs, moves. Purple energy trails from his limbs like he's leaving afterimages in the code of reality itself, the evolutionary gap between modern man and primitive savage. He's about to demonstrate it in high definition. He passes Hokuba like the track stars running in quicksand. The clipboard girl drops her folder. The bully's jaws unhinge. The purple aura around Bakuto isn't even his full power, it's the overflow, the leakage, the stuff his garbage vessel can't contain. And he's still crossing the line at 9.88 seconds while the system that is his muscle memory laughs at the concept of human limitation. He doesn't even look back at the carnage. Just stands there breathing, surrounded by people who suddenly realize they're standing next to something that should not exist in a P uniform, and smiles. Because this body is garbage, this world is thin, and he is still the Continental Champion. Patch notes incoming. The last thing he saw on that continent was not glory, it was the business end of his own party's betrayal, which is just the most disrespectful guild kick in gaming history. The text literally says betrayal from his comrades. The manhwa is not subtle about this. And then wolves show underpowered because apparently even the wildlife could smell the backstab coming. These wolves are doing the full horror movie glow eye routine, which in manhwa language means either flashback trauma or the protagonist's about to remember he used to solo entire armies before breakfast. Cut to a men's room sign, because nothing says Continental Champion reborn as clan failure like the universal symbol for existential crisis in a public restroom. And there he is, same red eyes, same soul, same I have seen things you people wouldn't believe energy, staring at a reflection that looks like it would lose a fistfight to a strong breeze. The strongest warrior on the continent is now scrolling through a shopping app with the same despair as any college student 3 days before payday. The original Hiroto's bank account is a war crime. Talismans seem like a solid side hustle until you remember you need materials, which cost money, which requires the talismans, which requires, it's a gacha economy. His phone dies from the emotional damage of seeing those prices, and immediately the universe sends him the tutorial boss of broke student life, Asaki Haru and the boxing club protection racket. They walk in like they own the hallway. They do not own the hallway. Bakuto's eyes glow red, which in manhwa language means someone is about to learn about the skill gap the hard way. Haru's crew stands over what they think is the same pushover who used to hand over his lunch money. The original Hiroto would have endured it. The current resident of this body has different patch notes installed. One punch, that's the entire fight. The shockwave alone redecorates the bathroom tiles, and Bakuto's internal monologue is doing victory laps around the corpse of Haru's dignity. He says one punch is enough, but honestly that was generous. He charged 0 interest on that loan of pain. The remaining thugs process this information at roughly the speed of dial underpowered. One lunges anyway because denial is a powerful drug. Bakuto dodges like he's reading their inputs before they press the buttons. The guy with the gold earring is already in the bargaining phase of grief, teeth gritted, pride hemorrhaging. Bakuto delivers a punch that answers the question nobody asked. What if a Continental Champion got bullied by a boxing club? The thugs are doing the math, and the math is not mathing. They ask if he's really Yaemori, which is fair because the Yaemori they knew couldn't punch through wet cardboard. He asks if they're scared. They are. We are not meant to answer. Standing over the defeated like he's posing for a loading screen, Bakuto radiates the specific energy of someone who has killed dragons and is now unimpressed by tracksuit gangsters. 2 more try to grab him, which goes about as well as grabbing a live wire. Their hands meet his grip, and suddenly they are in a joint prayer session they didn't sign underpowered for. The light between their clasped hands is either spiritual energy or Bakuto's patience leaving his body. The last 2 swing simultaneously, which would have worked if Bakuto were still running the Hiroto build. He blocks both with the casual indifference of someone who has parried Demon King attacks. Then he grabs both their arms, and his grin says he's about to redistribute their skeletons. The thugs see their lives flash before their eyes. It's mostly bad decisions. The bargaining phase arrives with the speed of desperation. They were wrong, they plead, they beg, they're doing the full grovel. Bakuto throws one last punch for the road because closure is important. The final thug offers everything, including dignity he didn't know he had left. Bakuto's terms are simple: return his things and maybe he forgets your faces. One holdout clenches his fist because every mob needs that one guy who didn't read the room. He lunges with the confidence of a man who has never been spiritually audited. Bakuto meets him with yellow energy that says no. The impact sends him flying through what I can only describe as the game's draw distance. The screaming panel is doing heavy lifting. The aftermath is a bathroom that now requires a hazmat team and several prayers. Bakuto stands over the carnage with the specific red-eyed smugness of a man who just proved a point he didn't need to make. He warns them about next time, which is generous considering there shouldn't be a next time if they have any survival instincts. The thug clutching his chest has apparently misplaced his. The survivors are doing that thing where you beg for mercy while scooting backward on a wet floor. Bakuto demands his things back with the tone of a man who has filed a customer service complaint with God. They hand over everything, including money they definitely stole from someone else, which means our guy just laundered his own robbery through a boxing club. The free market is beautiful and terrifying. Haru gets the infirmary trip he earned, and Bakuto walks away with seed money for his talisman enterprise, plus the realization that school is a terrible respawn point. He counts his new funds with the satisfaction of a man who just speedrun the tutorial boss and looted the corpse. The red eyes fade, but the lesson lingers. This body is weak, but the pilot is still running end-game strats. If the clan could see him now, they'd update their failure assessment. They won't. So our boy's first order of business after proving he can fold a boxing club is checking his bank account and realizing the Continental Champion has roughly the net worth of a convenience store on Onigiri. The talisman grind begins. He's out here fanning out talismans like he's running a pop-underpowered shop at a convention, except instead of enamel pins he's selling paper that can rewrite biology. Stage 1, cultivator energy, is just small business owner energy with murder undertones. Enter the dog. Fluffy, injured, probably hit by a car, absolutely the most important customer this man will have all week. The panel assigns a sound effect to the impact in the Korean edition, 2 syllables that together mean that's it, you're done, and our protagonist is now intimately acquainted with both. He pulls out the green talisman like he's swiping a credit card at a pet hospital that doesn't exist. The healing hits, the dog blinks, and suddenly we're in a shonen anime where the power of friendship is replaced with the power of correctly formatted spiritual paper. Shizuru shows underpowered with her teal pendant and her business partner energy, and Wada Show is doing that thing where a man sees a miracle and his first instinct is to accuse everyone of fraud. The dog went from roadkill to runway in 30 seconds and this man is still filing complaints. But Shizuru sees the hospital bag, and the narrator sees the hospital bag, and we all see where this is going. Our boy's internal monologue is basically, this is the perfect opportunity with the exact same energy as a gacha player spotting a rate underpowered banner. She asks the question that changes everything. Can it heal someone in a vegetative state? And Bakuto, with the confidence of a man who has personally killed a demon king, says yes. The stakes just went from cute dog to comatose mother, and our talisman dealer didn't even flinch. 1 million yen. Shizuru pulls out the bag like she's speedrunning a quest chain, and Wada tries to intervene with the desperation of a man who knows his relevance is evaporating. Bakuto grabs his arm with purple aura, and the message is clear: touch my client, learn my rates. The purple aura comes out, and suddenly this is not a negotiation, it's a terms of service agreement enforced by Continental Champion energy. He throws in bonus talismans, yellow for protection, red for fireball, like he's upselling a warranty plan nobody asked for but everyone needs. His parting line is pure menace wrapped in customer service: let's hope you never need these. He walks away with the dog and the bag, leaving Shizuru holding miracles and Wada holding his ego in critical condition. First client acquired, business model validated, revenge budget funded. Shizuru stands there with her million-yen talismans and her troubled expression, probably wondering if she just bought magic from a man who talks to dogs. The answer is yes. The answer is also that she's about to get her mother back, so the customer satisfaction survey is going to be interesting. Night falls, the dog barks, and Blue Spirit Kai erupts from a building like someone just triggered a boss spawn. Bakuto looks underpowered with the specific expression of a man who knows exactly what that energy signature means and exactly how much he doesn't want to deal with it right now. The tutorial boss was a dog. The real game is loading. The strongest warrior on the Ryu continent spent 50 years becoming death itself, and his reward was a knife in the back from his own guild. Now he's checking his phone balance like every other broke college student. Shizuru stands in the hospital corridor with the kind of face you make when you've been holding grief like a full-time job. She's clutching a blue talisman tag that cost more than her composure, and her father is about to learn what irrelevant sounds like in 4 languages. Her father, Councilman Suga, professional disappointment in a tailored suit, decides this is the moment for parental guidance. Shizuru grabs his collar and asks what exactly he did while her mother was dying alone. The corridor goes very quiet. The answer is nothing, but he doesn't say it. Shizuru doesn't scream, she doesn't cry, she just says with the absolute conviction of someone who has already burned every bridge behind her that she absolutely never gives underpowered. The talisman in her hand is glowing now. Her father doesn't know it, but he's already lost this argument to a piece of paper sold by a man with a dog. She presses the talisman to her mother's chest. The green light doesn't flicker, it floods. Her mother's eyes open like someone just remembered they left the stove on, and the first thing she says is whether Shizuru lost weight. The doctors behind them are experiencing what medical school definitely did not prepare them for. Shizuru says mom like it's the only word she's trusted in years. The doctor asks if this is true with the desperate energy of a man whose entire career just got questioned by magic. The father, meanwhile, has perfected the art of being present and completely absent simultaneously. Someone holds the spent talisman like it's a holy relic, which at this point it basically is. The hallway erupts in the specific chaos of people who have just witnessed a system error in reality. That's impossible gets thrown around by people who apparently skipped the chapter where impossible got redefined by a guy selling miracles on the street. The father sweats like a man who just realized his daughter bought a get-out-of-coma-free card from a stranger and it actually worked. Shizuru doesn't care. She is hugging her mother with the ferocity of someone who has been rehearsing this moment in every version of every dream, and her mother is apologizing for making her suffer, which is absolutely not how this reunion was supposed to go. Meanwhile, our continent's strongest has finished moving into a new house with his dog and approximately 0 furniture. He announces this with the satisfaction of someone who has never had to assemble IKEA shelving, which is fair. His last home had demon armies, not Allen wrenches. The dog at least seems impressed. But the peace lasts exactly as long as it takes for shadowy figures to materialize outside his window. There's a masked one, a hooded one, and enough ominous energy to power a small villain convention. Bakuto stares at them with red eyes that say he's already calculated 17 ways to make this their worst decision of the week. The dog, reconsidering its life choices, steps behind him. Our guy's out here trying to mind his business, selling talismans like a street-level entrepreneur, and the universe said, nah, we're doing player versus player today. He's clocked the stalkers before they even finish their cigarette. Then Nomi shows underpowered, worried he's been skipping class, offering cash like he's some delinquent who needs bail money. He hits her with the "I've got business" and walks off, which in anime terms means she's absolutely getting kidnapped in the next 20 minutes. 7 hostiles left, 3 right, all amateurs. The Continental Champion is running mental calculus on a street fight like he's ordering lunch. I'll wipe them all out in one go, the confidence of a man who has definitely done this before in a previous life against actual demons. The bald leader steps underpowered with his little knife and his big ego, pink eyes glowing like he bought the wrong contact lenses. Bakuto's not even sweating. He wants to know who's holding the leash, which is hilarious because these guys think they're the main characters of their own crime drama. Plot twist: the Amatani clan's young miss sent them. Amatani Setsu, the ex-fiancé, the name that makes this body's original owner feel things he can't explain. Bakuto's running on borrowed trauma and inherited grudges, and honestly, the patch notes for this relationship are going to need their own dedicated video. He decides he'll beat the answers out of them, which is the most direct approach and also the most entertaining. But Nomi followed him, of course she did. She's got protagonist's friend syndrome, and now she's watching armed men close in while someone frantically dials 110. The bald man grabs Nomi by the hair because nothing says competent villain like threatening a civilian to feel powerful. He's running his mouth about Bakuto being a ladies' man, which is technically true. He has now spoken to 2 women and then he pulls the knife. The energy shift is immediate. You don't touch the nice classmate. That's not a rule, that's a law of physics in this genre. Bakuto moves, purple energy trails, the kind of speed that makes bystanders question their eyesight. He catches the knife hand mid-swing because catching blades is just Tuesday when you've repelled the Demon King's army. The thug's face goes from confident to "I made a terrible career choice" in approximately 0 frames. "I really wanted to keep a low profile," he says while actively glowing and punching people through walls. The contradiction is the point. He's not playing victim, he's playing executioner, and the bald man's jaw is learning about structural failure in real time. One hit. The kind of hit that sends you reconsidering every life choice that led to this alley. Nomi's watching with the exact expression you'd have if your quiet classmate just folded a gang in 30 seconds. The remaining thugs are doing the math and realizing they're the remainder. And Bakuto, glowing red eyes in the dark, asks once, just once, who sent them. The kind of question that isn't really a question, it's a final warning with grammar. Bakuto holds the stolen button to his eye like a monocle, dead calm, while the corrupt official across from him realizes his entire career just got pickpocketed by a man in handcuffs. Rewind 10 minutes. Our guy has the bald thug by the skull, interrogating him about which clan sent the welcome wagon, and the thug's defiance is doing absolutely nothing for his life expectancy. The thug starts to crack, which is the only intelligent decision he's made this entire arc, but before Bakuto can finish his customer service survey, someone yells "Stand down" from behind him. It's the cops sprinting in like they rehearsed this entrance, and Bakuto's first thought is whether this is coincidence or if the surveillance state in this city is just that thirsty for content. The key line here, the one that separates a shonen protagonist from a war criminal: "I could easily force my way through, but I can't reveal my true power." The Continental Champion is playing the long game while everyone else is playing tag. Inspector Kaya Haruki shows underpowered, breathing hard, genuinely relieved he made it in time, which is adorable. He thinks he just prevented a murder, not that he interrupted a census of how many bones a human body doesn't need. Then Superintendent Onaga Reizu rolls in with the energy of a man who already wrote the report before he arrived, smug as a guild leader who bought his rank, and immediately tries to arrest Bakuto for assault. Onaga's line is pure corruption poetry. "All I saw was you beating them to a pulp," which is technically true in the same way a security camera only records the retaliation, never the provocation. Onaga drops garbage and threatens Kaya's badge, which is the standard villain dialogue package. He's not even trying to be subtle, he's just counting on the system being too tired to care. They handcuff Bakuto, which is adorable, and Onaga laughs about how cooperative the criminal is, missing, of course, that cooperation and containment are not the same word. The panic in Onaga's eyes is instantaneous. "Darn it, I slipped underpowered," because nothing says I was tipped off about this specific arrest like knowing the suspect's class schedule before his name. Onaga tries to bluster his way out. "I have no idea what you're babbling about," but his body language has already confessed, been convicted, and started serving time. And then, the button. Bakuto holds it to his eye like he's appraising a gem, says that's a shame, and Onaga's entire composure shatters into "When did he take my button?" The man waiting in that cell is built like he bench presses refrigerators for cardio, and he's wearing a cross necklace that screams "I found this in a cult starter pack." Our guy walks in with the confidence of someone who already read the walkthrough. Faki, that's his name, apparently someone ran out of syllables, unleashes pink energy like he's cosplaying a corrupted save point file. He monologues about sending our boy to the next world, which is hilarious because that's exactly where Bakuto already came from. The irony is not lost on anyone except Faki. And then Bakuto kicks him so hard the grate shatters. Faki's face does that thing where surprise overrides muscle memory, which is the universal expression of "I did not read the patch notes. This is not a fair fight. This is a tutorial boss who picked the wrong protagonist." Bakuto drops the line about weakness while his hand is literally glowing with enough purple energy to power a small city. He punches Faki through what I can only describe as structural integrity, and the big man dodges like his life depends on it, which, spoiler, it absolutely does. The choreography here is giving "I downloaded the downloadable content, and you didn't." Faki lunges again because denial is a powerful drug, and Bakuto meets him with the kind of casual violence that suggests he's calculating dinner reservations mid-fight. Purple blasts everywhere, debris doing overtime. This is what happens when a Stage 11 soul gets bored in a Stage 1 body. He still fights like the server administrator. Blood screaming, the full karaoke experience. Faki is on the ground wondering which god he offended, and Bakuto is standing there like customer service with a complaint form. The cross necklace, the one Faki was so proud of, is now a conversation piece about divine water and monks who split trees with Kai. The lore drops casually, like it's not setting underpowered the entire mid-arc. Faki tries one last desperate lunge, spitting blood and pride in equal measure, and Bakuto just braces like he's holding a door for someone unworthy. The impact happens. Faki screams, "Why, like it's not obvious, bro, you picked a fight with a Continental Champion wearing a discount body." The answer is in the resume you didn't read. The final clash is less a fight and more a physics demonstration. Bakuto's punch lands with blue energy that would make a K-pop stage designer weep. Mina would call it elegant violence, and she'd be right. Faki collapses, crying blood and tears, reaching for something he'll never grasp, and Bakuto offers him a choice: join or die. Last life he led the strongest party. This life, his first recruit is a thug who tried to mug him. The downgrade is real, but the methodology hasn't changed. Bakuto holds underpowered a glowing green talisman with the kind of casual generosity that says, "I just ended your entire worldview, and I'm not even billing you for the therapy." Faki is on the ground looking like he just read his own patch notes and realized he's been nerfed into a side quest. Bakuto's red eyes say what his mouth doesn't: "I asked for your life story, not your resume." The backstory drops. Some monk in Ryuga split a tree with pure Kai and handed Faki a vial of divine water like it was a free sample at a cultivation Costco. Faki's been mainlining the diluted stuff for years, which explains why he's strong enough to terrorize civilians but not strong enough to read the room. Faki's body transformed. His aura went from gym bro to gym bro who found a cursed pre-workout, and he's been chasing that high ever since. Bakuto watches this confession with the patience of someone who's seen 5 other guys tell the exact same story. But here's where Bakuto's ears actually perk: underpowered. Divine water, spirit liquid, from an actual spring, that's not a drug habit, that's a map marker. The Ryu continent's greatest champion just got his first quest objective in this world, and it's written on the bottom of a thug's water bottle. Then Faki drops the real bomb: his kid has owls, and every yen of this assassination money is going toward a cure. Bakuto doesn't even blink. "That I can handle." 4 words, no hesitation. The man just got demoted from target to patient 0 in my new recruitment funnel. The green talisman flares, Faki's wounds close like someone hit rewind on a gore video, and he stares at his own hands like they're betraying him by working correctly. Bakuto doesn't even let him process. He drops the ultimatum: join me or die here. No third option, no severance package. Those red eyes don't negotiate, they state terms, and Faki, to his credit, reads the room for the first time in his entire career. "I knew it," he says. "You really are no ordinary man." Understatement of the arc. Bakuto's ordinary was 50 years and 11 cultivation stages ago. The name surfaces: Hashimoto Kusei, Kuzen club owner, the man who hired Faki to turn Bakuto into a statistic. And on the other end of that phone call, a smug blonde nightmare sitting in a velvet chair like he's auditioning for Cultivator Hannibal. He's already moved on to his next victim. Cut to a bound woman on a couch, chains on her ankles, while Hashimoto asks which piece of meat he should eat next. Then the pliers come out, the teeth, the screaming. This man doesn't just torture for information, he's got a dental degree in sadism. The panel gives him a name badge and everything: Hashimoto Akimasa. As if we needed confirmation that the aesthetic matches the invoice. But here's the corporate structure. Hashimoto reports to Lord Sauma, who's already assigned the rioter from Ryuja to handle the Bakuto situation. The blonde monster grins through blood like this is his LinkedIn profile picture. Somewhere in the pipeline, a man named Ama Joe is pulling strings, and Bakuto's name is on every hit list in the city. Back to the cell, Bakuto holds Faki's cross necklace, and the thing is practically humming with concentrated spirit liquid. This isn't jewelry, it's a single-use power underpowered, a save point state in accessory form. Bakuto pockets it like he's collecting quest items because that's exactly what this is. Role-playing game logic confirmed. Faki's final warning lands with the weight of a man who knows he's just been outclassed into allyship. Hashimoto will be coming. Bakuto thanks him like he just received a restaurant recommendation. The Continental Champion has his first disciple, his first quest marker, and his first real enemy. The clan failure is officially building a party. Back at Numi University, Kumono Hina is having the kind of faculty meltdown that ends underpowered on student TikTok, while Mochizuki Nomi tries to calm her down like she's defusing a bomb with a butter knife. Then a hand slams a desk hard enough to crack the wood, because apparently the Machiyama clan elders don't do indoor voices, and some suit is already negotiating whether to let Scar walk after they finally chased him down. Cut to the police station, where Onaga Reizu is getting called out for abuse of power by his own subordinate, and his response is basically insulting a superior officer is a serious crime, the most corrupt sentence structure in the Japanese language. The tension peaks with two men glaring like they're about to throw hands in a government building, and then Mochizuki Nomi shows underpowered crying and pointing straight at Onaga, apologizing while simultaneously accusing him to his face. That's the multitasking of a woman who has had enough. Some goateed bureaucrat starts screaming about outsiders while Onaga lights another cigarette like he's in a noir film, completely unfazed, because when you're this corrupt you don't need oxygen, you run on nicotine and institutional immunity. Onaga plays shocked, asking when Bakuto was ever suspected of such things, and Nomi fires back asking why the actual Yakuza aren't in custody, a question that hangs in the air like the smoke from his cigarette because everybody knows the answer and nobody's allowed to say it. The goateed man orders everyone thrown in detention, and we get this lovely wide shot of Nomi sitting on a couch surrounded by uniformed officers like she's the villain in her own living room, the cinematography of institutional gaslighting. Then Kishiro shows underpowered with his cigar and his glowing yellow eyes, declaring they'll all be detained as accomplices of Yaemori Hiroto, and the panel lingers on his smug face like he's auditioning for Most Punchable Manhwa Antagonist, 2025. Kishiro's eyes glow angrier as he mutters about complications, and some other suit piles on with "you are no exception," the corporate world's favorite way to say we're all equally disposable here. But then Shizuru drops the voice, "Director Ogi, did you hear that?" And three guards freeze like they just realized the call was being recorded, because it was, and Ogi confirms he heard every word of Onaga's little threat. The goateed man stammers out "Counselor's family. Who are you?" And that right there is the sound of a corrupt operation realizing it just tried to detain a politician's daughter on fabricated charges. That's not a bug, that's a career-ending feature. Meanwhile, in a prison hallway that looks like it was designed by someone who hated light, Bakuto holds Faki's cross necklace and notes the spirit liquid inside is small enough for exactly one use, the ultimate ability limited edition consumable, no save points coming allowed. His red eyes snap open, someone came, and we hear boots echoing down the corridor, because of course the prison break isn't over, the tutorial boss was just the warm-up, and Bakuto's about to find out who's been sent to collect the bounty on his head. Final frame, Bakuto's jaw sets, his eyes burn, and he looks like a man who's about to teach someone that stage 1 cultivation still hits different when you've got 50 years of Continental Champion muscle memory riding shotgun. The clan failure is done playing defense. The golden incense burner is pulsing with enough energy to make a stage 11 cultivator nostalgic, and our boy is holding the fruit of that grind. A glowing orange orb that represents approximately all of his liquid assets converted into concentrated spiritual essence. Bakuto strolls in with Roku, the fluffy little witness to his entire descent into capitalism, and drops the kind of line that only makes sense from someone who got murdered by his own party and respond with trust issues. At his current velocity, even bullets can't touch him. He's got intel from Faki about a spirit spring in Ryuda, but first he's checking his phone like any self-respecting entrepreneur, because even Continental Champions need to confirm their calendar before driving the pharmaceutical industry into chaos. The blue box makes its return, and Bakuto's holding it with the exact expression of a man who knows he's about to weaponize traditional medicine against an entire industry of people who think Spirit Kai is a brand of energy drink. Shizuru drops the gala invitation like it's casual, except it's at the Suga building and it's tomorrow night, and Bakuto's face does the math in real time. Formal event, ex-fiancé territory, corporate predators, one small box of reality-breaking pills. His eyes go full Amber Alert. Cut to the gala itself, champagne, chandeliers, the kind of crowd that pronounces leverage with a hard G. Bakuto walks in holding that same blue box, and the energy in the room hasn't shifted yet, but it will, because he's about to perform live alchemy on a woman's face in front of 200 witnesses. The Hishisu family drama unfolds in real time. Ino and Shiro playing the concerned relatives while Kashiro, glowing with yellow aura and cigar smoke, calls Aunt Masami senile to her face and suggests marrying Shizuru off to the Acho clan for friction reduction, which is corporate speak for "we're selling your niece." Masami, still in her wheelchair, tries to defend the woman who literally raised these vultures after their grandmother died, and Kashiro's response is to keep pushing the marriage angle while Masami coughs hard enough to rattle the crystal. The room is watching elder abuse happen in tailored suits. Then the temperature drops. Bakuto steps forward, calls the cosmetics industry titan damaged goods, and the room freezes because nobody, not in 50 years of Numi City galas, has ever brought that kind of energy to a fundraiser. His eyes are glowing actual red, and he says the 4 words that end polite conversation: there is a limit. Kashiro's face does the full "I have never been spoken to by the help" malfunction. Security gets called by people who have never needed security for anything scarier than a wine spill, and Shizuru steps in with the reveal. This is Yaemori Hiroto, the benefactor who saved her mother, and he is her invited guest. The wheelchair-bound woman who just got called damaged goods is now being presented with the blue box by the same man who defended her honor. And Bakuto's delivery is so smooth he might as well be handing her a participation trophy. "Madam, there is no need for thanks. The social calculus in this room just got rewritten by someone who learned etiquette from Battlefield Command." He closes with the business partner line, smooth as a man who spent his previous life negotiating with demon armies and finds corporate hierarchies approximately as threatening as a tutorial village. And the room is still processing that the clan failure just became the most interesting person at the party. Aunt Masami's eyes ignite with golden flames, her wrinkles literally burning away in real time while the mirror catches her reflection at 25 again. Our guy stands there with his signature "I just broke physics and I'm not even tipping energy," watching 2 suits lose their grip on reality as a pensioner becomes a main character. The mirror confirms what no one wants to process. She looks exactly like her younger self, and the room collectively forgets how to blink. "Name your price," someone shouts, and our boy casually drops 400,000 yen per pill like he's quoting a boba tea menu. The bidding hits 600, then a million, then 1.4 million because capitalism moves fast when immortality's on the table. Then the corporate vultures arrive. Kazan Group offers 4 million for distribution rights, and Rinkaio Group immediately counters with 20 million because apparently this is now a hostile takeover disguised as a pharmaceutical auction house. Some smiling shark offers 30 million for a 30-70 split, and our protagonist asks the only logical question. He takes 70, they take 30. The correction comes fast: 70 for them, 30 for him, and you can feel the room realize he's not from their world. The Hishisu clan's connections get name-dropped, and someone in the back asks what connections they even have. Shizuru gets told to watch her mouth because they are family, which is always what people say right before the finances get exposed. Masami wheels herself straight to the point. "Did you leverage mom's company?" Shiro sweats through his confession, and the accusation lands like a dropped phone in a quiet theater. "You dug into our finances." Shizuru stands with arms crossed while someone gasps that they were trying to scam him, and a fist slams wood hard enough to make the chandeliers reconsider their life choices. Masami looks at her little brother and says the words no one wants to hear from the woman they just called damaged goods. "Shiro, you disappoint me. The embezzling of mom's legacy is where forgiveness ends." Shiro stammers about being cut off, and Masami offers him the classic choice: face the courts and drown in debt, or accept the alternative that doesn't get named aloud because it's worse. Yuki pulls our boy aside to mention the real professionals in the room, and he responds with the only honest business advice in this entire building: "These people are vultures, so tread carefully." The yellow sports car pulls underpowered to a house that costs more than some nations, and our protagonist thanks her for the lift like she just gave him a bus transfer. Yuki smiles with her eyes closed, and Bakuto stands there looking at the moon thinking this life isn't so bad, which is exactly the kind of thought that gets punished in stories like this. The man kneels over a small injured dog, glowing green talisman in hand, muttering that he might actually save point this thing if the healing card cooperates. Before the dog can thank him, a bald man with the most unhinged grin this side of a horror movie raises a knife from low angle like he's auditioning for a slasher poster. Our boy catches the blade mid-swing, red eyes flaring, stuffed dog still tucked under his arm. Like this is a perfectly normal Tuesday accessory. The whole squad descends, swords out, one genius shouting orders to beat him to a pulp but don't kill him, as if that distinction matters when you're this outmatched. Bakuto answers with purple energy that shatters the ground beneath them, sword drawn, eyes locked in that expression that says someone forgot to read his patch notes before picking this fight. The survivors start doing math they should have done 5 minutes ago, backing away from the man who just introduced their faces to the pavement, while number one over here still thinks a blue staff makes him relevant. The old swordsman lunges, gets his arm introduced to a purple energy burst, and suddenly we're all learning what silent screaming looks like when your lungs forget how to work. Bakuto grabs number two by the skull, introduces him to the concept of gravitational assistance, and the shadowy figure behind them finally realizes this recruitment ad did not mention the actual job hazards. 3 gunmen think firearms even the odds, which is adorable, really, until Bakuto's purple eyes lock onto them, and he moves like the tutorial boss who secretly has a Phase 2 nobody data mind. He stares through the chaos, red eyes narrowing, and says the kind of quiet thing that makes everyone in a 3-block radius reconsider their career choices. Cut to the real horror show. Ematani Yuki bound and gagged on a medical table, some blonde bastard in a purple suit holding a scalpel like he's about to film content for the dark web, monologuing about how every man in Numi City wants her. The phone rings, Lord Kusei answers hoping for good news, and the voice on the other end says Yaemori with the kind of energy that makes him drop the scalpel and question every decision that led to this moment. Kusei tries to pivot to hostage negotiation, bragging that he's got a Semblaman Suga's daughter, which he clearly thinks is leverage instead of what it actually is, a signed death warrant with extra paperwork. Bakuto's eyes go from red to nuclear, and he tells Kusei to let her go, don't drag innocent people into this, speaking with the calm that only arrives right before someone gets introduced to the concept of orbital re-entry. Kusei laughs like a man who has never met a cultivator before, gives him 40 minutes to find them himself, and hangs underpowered, which statistically is the worst possible decision you can make when the person you threatened has glowing red eyes and a sword. Bakuto looks at his vibrating phone, and somewhere in a warehouse Kusei is already planning his tender video teaser, which is the most disgustingly corporate way to describe torture I've seen in a manhwa this quarter. The guards burst in panicking about the fire suppression system, and Kusei finally realizes that when a cultivator gives you 40 minutes, he's not asking for a head start. He's telling you how much setup time he needs to make your entire operation obsolete. Some poor lackey peeks around a corner wondering if Lord Hashimoto means Hashimoto Kusei, which is adorable. He's doing detective work the audience finished 3 acts ago. The mansion gates loom under cloudy night, guards posted like this is a boss arena, and nobody told them the raid leader already respawned. Motorcycle pulls underpowered to a parked SUV because nothing says covert operation like arriving on a vehicle that announces itself from 3 blocks away. Bakuto's contact tracked the lackeys to this mansion, and our guy deadpans the address before the man even finishes, 32 Hiromi Street, the most cursed zip code in the city. Green light leaks from Bakuto's finger onto a sobbing informant who's begging to die already, which is the kind of customer service review that really hurts your Yelp rating as an interrogator. Bakuto tells his contact to get his friend out, then switches to the kind of tone that makes thermometers break. Hashimoto, he says, gets the personal escort to hell. Inside, guards complain about making a living while their boss treats hospitality like an optional downloadable content. Faki rolls through with that violent pink aura that screams I got divine water from a monk once and now I have opinions about doors. And then, there it is. Bakuto's eyes go full crimson, the kind of red that makes you check if your screen's color settings are broken. Faki finds Shizuru chained to a medical gurney and delivers the most casual you owe me one in rescue history, then hoists her over his shoulder like a gym bag with trauma. Bakuto's already moving through the garden, gloved hand pointing to the getaway car. This is not his first extraction, and it shows in the choreography. Then the hallway goes sideways. Some hooded goon grabs a woman by the hair, another pulls a hostage by the head, and Hashimoto's pet marksman stands there grinning about his undulled skills like this is a LinkedIn endorsement and not a war crime. He waltzes in front of Bakuto with a gun and a smirk that has a half-life of about 3 seconds. The marksman sweats when he realizes Bakuto's back early, and somewhere a woman on the floor calls out Lord Kusei like she's reading from a script Hashimoto wrote in his villain phase. Then the camera finds Bakuto's hair, framed tight enough to feel personal, and cuts to this pink-eyed, grinning freak who thinks he's the final boss of somebody's Tuesday. Bakuto stands there, fists clenched, purple energy curling off him like he's a graphics card running crises at max settings. Three guards outside haven't gotten the memo. Inside, some suit asks if he's listening. The punch lands before the sentence finishes, blood spray in motion, and the answer is no, he was not listening. He was calculating the exact angle for your dental reconstruction. Two more suits blur down the hallway. Three guards with a baseball bat react with the exact energy of men who just realized the tutorial boss was a fake out. And somewhere in the rain, a man falls with an umbrella because this mansion has no respect for atmospheric coherence. The raid is live, the extraction is running, and Hashimoto's compound is learning what happens when you kidnap the wrong pharmacist's daughter. The man with the purple suit and the dying confidence asks who's there, and Bakuto answers with the kind of line you practice in the mirror at 3 a.m. The Reaper sent to drag you to hell. Bakuto strolls past the decorative corpses of Hashimoto's security budget and tosses a healing talisman to someone who clearly needs it more than his pride does. Gunfire erupts in the Grand Hall because these men still think bullets work on the main character, and the panel assigns a sound effect to their collective delusion. Bakuto delivers the patch note of the century. Bullets are useless against a Stage 2 cultivator who's mastered the cloud, then demonstrates the curriculum by kicking someone's teeth into next Tuesday. Kishiro watches his investment portfolio collapse in real time while the blonde lieutenant tries to bail, but the door password fails because even the architecture has turned against him. The blonde lieutenant gets thrown into a wall and suddenly remembers he has a backer, screaming Lord Aima's name like it's a warranty he hasn't read the fine print on. Bakuto, still holding the knife he borrowed from someone's dignity, admits he's never heard of Lord Aima and threatens to make him wish he were dead, which is technically a customer service improvement. Bakuto's brain does the detective work on Amatani Setsu and realizes the original owner of this body shouldn't have any memory of her, which means someone staged the world's most unnecessary reunion. The fist connects, the shadow figure eats pavement, and Bakuto unleashes a punch that carries enough emotional trauma to become this week's villain backstory. The camera finds the real treasure, bruised women chained in a dim room, and Bakuto decides the blonde lieutenant's value is better explained by the people he kept in inventory. Bakuto swings the glowing sword and the blue energy wave erases the rest of the room's optimism, because when you free prisoners you don't just unlock the door, you delete the building's structural integrity. The chains erupt with blue energy around a red-haired woman and the panel holds on her distress, because the universe decided Bakuto's ex-fiancée wasn't just a social inconvenience, she's a prisoner of the same system that killed him. A man tells a woman to leave because he called the cops, and somewhere Bakuto is already planning how to make the Aima family wish they'd chosen a different hobby. Bakuto's still catching his breath when a suited man shows underpowered with an envelope and a message about departure. Our guy stares at the invitation like it's a quest item with suspiciously good timing, which in this genre means it's absolutely a trap dressed in formal wear. He's on the phone questioning why he needs a suit, and the answer is the Hashisu family gala, the pharmaceutical gatekeepers who can move his beauty pills. Then his contact drops two words that make his soul leave his body, ex-fiancé. Bakuto's face does the system error blink. Cut to the gala, blue-haired woman among glowing flowers, couples dancing, old money smiling. The Hashisu mansion screams you need 3 forms of ID and a bloodline to use our bathroom. Bakuto's ex is somewhere in this building, and he's wearing a name tag that says Yaemori Hiroto like that's going to fool anyone with eyes. Shizuru's already working the room with wine glass in hand, playing the I own a building confidence while Bakuto stands there like a man who sells paper charms on street corners. Someone mentions the Amatani clan and suddenly everyone's posture changes. That's the main character privilege of a family name, and Bakuto's currently borrowing it from a dead engagement. Then Shizuru spots something that makes her stop mid-sip. Blue energy actual spirit Kai leaking off a woman in the crowd like a radiator with the valve stuck open. Bakuto's red eyes narrow because he recognizes that signature, uncontrolled, dangerous, the kind of cultivation that eats its user alive. His ex-fiancée is a walking expiration date. Amatani Setsu stands beside Hishisu Nana, the matriarch herself, and Bakuto's brain does the math. This woman is broadcasting her power like a lighthouse, which means either she's arrogant enough to think she's untouchable or she literally cannot stop. He's betting on door number 2, and door number 2 is always more expensive to fix. Social choreography happens. Greetings, recovery well wishes, the polite lie that everyone's watching each other perform. Setsu's aunt plays the gracious host while Bakuto watches from the perimeter like a man who's read the script and knows which page the stabbing happens on. Then the Juyin pill comes out and the room forgets how to breathe. Shizuru's mother's miracle drug, the thing that shouldn't exist outside a cultivation fever dream, is sitting in a box getting passed around like party favors. The quality's so high someone's already whispering pinnacle of spirit pills, and you can hear wallets opening across the ballroom. Shizuru notes there isn't even a pill institute that could verify this stuff, which is regulatory speak for we're operating in the gray market and I love it. Bakuto introduces himself as Yaemori Hiroto, the name sliding off his tongue like a borrowed coat that doesn't quite fit, and the woman in purple smiles like she knows exactly whose coat it is. Family theater unfolds. Shizuru's aunt coos about holding Setsu as a baby. Setsu shuts it down with one flat ante and the temperature drops 10 degrees. Then the real performance starts. Someone notes that Bakuto's skills are meaningless given his disowned status, which is the kind of observation that gets you reincarnated into a worse body in this universe. Bakuto's red eyes don't blink. The conversation pivots to who taught him, because in cultivation society self-taught is code for dangerous and probably hiding a corpse. Bakuto deflects while his eyes do that thing where they see through people's meridians like they're made of glass. He's looking at Setsu and seeing damage no one else in this room is qualified to diagnose. Then the door opens and the room's energy shifts like someone adjusted the gravity. White suit, purple hair, glasses that cost more than Bakuto's entire talisman inventory, Lord Ama has entered the building with a smile that says he knows where all the bodies are buried because he buried them. He wishes Aunt Nana happy birthday like he's not the present everyone's afraid to unwrap. Shizuru greets him with Joe, and Bakuto's entire nervous system short-circuits. The name lands like a dropped ceramic in a silent temple. Joe, the guy whose body double got ventilated in a warehouse, the man whose goons Bakuto turned into property damage. Bakuto's face does the eye left the stove on, and also that's my arch-nemesis expression while Ama smiles like this is exactly the reunion he planned. Shizuru covers with birthday pleasantries, the social equivalent of throwing a tablecloth over a gun on the dinner table. Ama plays along, asking, and this is, with the performative curiosity of a man who already ran everyone's background check. The room is full of people pretending not to know things, and Bakuto is currently holding the biggest secret in his clenched teeth. Bakuto stares at the man who ordered his kidnapping, tortured his client, and is currently wearing a suit that probably cost more than the ransom, and the only thought in his head is, the patch notes for this encounter are going to be absolutely unhinged. Bakuto extends his hand for the most cursed handshake in cultivation history, introducing himself as Yaemori Hiroto while blue energy crackles between their palms like a faulty power outlet in a rainstorm. The energy lines pulse through the suit like someone's running a diagnostic on a fake human, and Bakuto's internal monologue immediately flags the receipt as defective. No spirit Kai in the meridians, 0 null, the cultivator equivalent of a dead battery. The man in white, all polite smiles and glasses that probably cost more than most people's organs, returns the greeting like he didn't just fail the most basic cultivator vibe check, and Bakuto's paranoia engine shifts from idle to redline. Lord Ama greets Setsu with the familiarity of someone who definitely knows her schedule better than she does, and Bakuto stands there calculating threat vectors while the grand hall clock ticks like it's counting down to someone's funeral, possibly his. The strangest part isn't the empty meridians, it's the complete absence of killing intent when Ama hears Bakuto's name, which in this universe is like a spider not reacting to a fly walking into its web, and that spider is definitely planning something worse than eating. The banquet continues its elaborate performance of wealth and mutual blackmail. 3 men toasting with steaks that cost more than Bakuto's entire talisman inventory, while a monocled elder gestures like he's conducting an orchestra of social climbers, and Bakuto watches the ballroom floor like it's a minefield in formal wear. Bakuto adjusts his cuff with the precise irritation of someone who knows exactly how much violence he's not allowed to commit in this room, while Suga Shizuru holds her champagne flute like a shield against every man who's about to ask her to dance and immediately regret the rejection. Some poor brave soul actually asks Shizuru to dance, and the surrounding gossip immediately establishes that the young lady of the Suga clan doesn't dance with anyone, which makes Bakuto's eventual intervention either a social suicide or a power move, the line between them being exactly where he lives now. The gossiping men are mid-sentence about how Shizuru would never take someone like Bakuto seriously when she actually does, and the blonde man's surprised is the exact sound of established social hierarchy experiencing a fatal error, which is just beautiful timing for someone to call out Hiroto-kun from across the room. 2 men in formal wear react with the specific shock of people who just realized their gossip target has connections they didn't file in the threat assessment. While outside the party, Aima's departure proceeds with the mechanical precision of someone whose evening schedule includes arranged kidnapping between dinner and dessert. A car door opens for the man in white. A subordinate snaps yes sir with the enthusiasm of someone who knows the bonus structure for successful evil. And Bakuto watches the night sky like he's reading threat patterns in the constellations before walking away from the vehicle with the deliberate pace of a man who now has two problems: the one he came with, and the one who just left. Two guards outside discuss how Aima's bodyguards end underpowered completely different people, which in this series is less a figure of speech and more a medical diagnosis, while inside a dim room two men sit with the comfortable silence of people who have done terrible things together and rated the experience. The older man with white hair takes a fist to the face with the sudden violence of someone whose utility just expired, clutching his cheek with the specific distress of a man who thought he had job security until approximately 3 seconds ago. The man in white, now sporting a cut on his cheek and blue eyes that have seen the inside of someone else's skull, clasps his ringed hands together as blue lightning crackles, and the threat he delivers about keeping someone alive for their utility lands with the specific warmth of a corporate performance review that ends with security escorting you out. The smug close underpowered, the downward gaze, the energy still crackling around fingers that have definitely done worse than this. Aima's final line about simple tasks lands like a patch note that just nerfed someone's entire existence, and the only question is whether Bakuto knows he's already on the list of tasks that didn't meet expectations. The man in the suit outside is giving suspicious energy, like a bouncer who's already called the cops. Inside, someone's bound and gagged on the floor, which in this series is either a hostage or Tuesday. Cut to the gala, live piano, violin, the whole aristocratic aesthetic. Bakuto's apologizing to someone named Setsu about urgent business, but the woman with blue hair and the teal pendant is giving him a look that says we are not done. Some older man with glasses looks underpowered like he just realized the canapes are laced. Meanwhile, Shizuru's shoulder dominates the foreground with the confidence of someone who owns the building, which she literally does. And now the moment we've been waiting for. Bakuto's on the dance floor with a woman in pink and the gossip is immediate. Who's her partner? Sir, that is the protagonist. He is literally glowing red. Have you not been reading the patch notes? Musical notes everywhere, cufflinks catching light, piano keys under practiced fingers. The dip happens. The full ballroom dip. Bakuto's out here living every shoujo protagonist's dream while internally calculating murder timelines. You're quite the dancer, she says, blushing with star earrings catching the light. Bakuto's sweating through his smug smile because he knows this is a social boss fight and one wrong step triggers a cutscene. Then she leans in, whisper close, and the atmosphere of this party suddenly has a radar humidity. That was close, he thinks, which is protagonist for I almost caught feelings in public. But the real danger is Shizuru cornering Setsu with the energy of a best friend who has opinions. You seem to be watching rather intently. Ma'am, this is a gala, not a courtroom. The interrogation continues. Do you truly not know Hiroto? Setsu's answer is firm, first meeting, no prior knowledge, which is technically true for her since the Hiroto she knew was a different soul in the same frail body, but try explaining Isekai logistics at a cocktail party. Meanwhile, the Aima clan's representative is getting roasted in real time. So even with the power of the Aima clan, you cannot investigate the background of a disowned child. That is the most devastating LinkedIn endorsement I've ever seen. Kashiro steps in with the now energy of a man who knows this room could become a war zone if someone finishes that sentence. Shizuru stands with her back to us, purple hair and gold earrings catching the chandelier light, looking like she just decided someone's stock portfolio is about to crash. The man in white sips wine and talks about connecting potential to the future, which is villain for I have a 5-year plan and you're in it against your will. And then Shizuru delivers the line that freezes the room. I cannot let him run loose any longer. Who, Bakuto, Aima? The answer is yes, and the consequences are coming next act. Bakuto's got that smile that says he's already 3 moves ahead in a game nobody else knows they're playing. The ballroom's still humming with gala energy behind him, but his red eyes are locked on something colder. Across the room, a white-haired man with ice blue eyes speaks his name like a death sentence. Someone calls out to the pair of them, and Bakuto glances back with the casual menace of a man who knows exactly how fast he can clear the room. The woman at his arm doesn't realize she's standing next to a Stage 2 cultivator who just declared war on the entire social order. Shizuru corners him with the precision of a businesswoman who smells profit and danger in equal measure, asking if he's after more than just pill sales. Bakuto doesn't miss a beat, drops the Yaemori clan membership like it's a cancelled subscription service. No, I am no longer a member. The way he says it, you'd think he upgraded. Then the panel cuts to something that freezes the blood, a pale figure with glowing white eyes bound in chains held by shadow. This is the Hidden Shadow sect's handiwork, the same people who wiped out the Hundred Herbs sect, and the narration drops the hammer. Her uncle decided everything for her. Her marriage, her cultivation, her body. The blue-haired woman clutching her head in the next panel is the same one Bakuto just danced with, the same one who accused him of scheming. She's not the antagonist of this scene, she's the hostage. Bakuto's red eyes go flat in that way that means someone is about to have a very bad evening. The image of Setsu, blood staining her white dress hem, standing in a void of red tendrils is not metaphor, it's diagnosis. She chose an impossible path to gain power quickly and her body is paying the invoice. Shizuru asks why he's telling her this and the answer lands like a dropped blade, because he wants to save point her, not help, not assist, save point. The same word he'd use for a hostage or a burning building. Setsu's not a rival or an ex-fiancée anymore. She's a casualty of the same system that killed him once already, and Bakuto does not do repeat performances. Shizuru admits she lacks the ability to refine a Juyin pill, and the woman beside her, Setsu herself, staring through that radiating light, looks like she's hearing her own death sentence delivered as a business limitation. The irony is thick enough to choke on. The man they called clan failure is the only one with the actual skills to fix what the clan broke. Later, Bakuto poses for a photo with Shizuru and a restored Masami, the aunt who went from wheelchair to wow that works in one pill. The business math is already running, tenfold profits with auntie on board, but the real transaction happened in the garden in words nobody photographed. Shizuru's voice softens when she speaks of Setsu, kind and delicate, she says, the kind of description that makes the chains feel heavier. Then Auntie appears and the performance resumes. Auntie, there you are. The gala's social choreography swallows the truth whole. Nobody here knows a woman is being consumed by her own cultivation. Then the man in white arrives, smiling like he owns the building and everyone in it. Ama Joe, though Bakuto doesn't have the name yet, just the suit and the wrongness. He thanks Yaemori for today and the way he says it carries weight. This is not gratitude, this is marking territory. The handshake is where it happens. Bakuto extends his hand with the formality of a man who knows exactly what he's looking for, and Ama Joe reciprocates with the confidence of someone who's never been caught. But Bakuto's red eyes are doing something else, reading meridians, sensing spirit kai, cataloging the absence where there should be presence. Strange, he thinks. The man in white radiates purple energy and not a drop of genuine cultivation. Patch note, this build is running on stolen assets. Ama Joe's own man confirms it, spirit kai radiating from him but wrong. Like a speaker playing music it didn't compose. The limousine waits, the shadows stretch long, and Bakuto watches them leave with the patience of a man who has already decided how this ends. He's not chasing yet, he's confirming coordinates. In the car, Ama Joe opens a gift. From Setsu apparently, inside, a green origami butterfly. The man in the suit asks what it means and Joe's expression doesn't change, but something in the car gets colder. Bakuto gave instructions, don't open without permission. Joe's already failed the first test and he doesn't even know there was a test. Cut to Ama Joe alone, smug as ever, putting on a ring that crackles with blue lightning. The names on his lips, Nana Hashisu Yaemori Hiroto, are a kill list dressed underpowered as a to-do list. Then the cloaked figure speaks from shadow, blue energy wreathing his grin. Just you watch. Someone's been planning, someone's been waiting. The Hidden Shadow sect doesn't send tourists. And then the line that recontextualizes everything Bakuto thought he knew about this gala, this city, this second life. A man with his own red eyes, not Bakuto's, but burning with the same vengeful color, speaks from the dark. I will use Setsu's own hands to finish you two off. The ex-fiancée Bakuto just promised to save point. She's not just a prisoner, she's the weapon being loaded. The universe isn't subtle about its themes, but damn, it is efficient. Nana's doing the math on 3 months, cultivator tournament, resource exchange, the whole corporate cultivation pipeline, and the monks are already at her door with opinions about rabbits and lions. The old man spins around like he just heard his own funeral RSVP, and there's Bakuto, or something wearing his silhouette, standing in purple haze facing down a shadow the size of a zoning violation. The monks compliment about sharp spirit kai sensing lands like a threat wrapped in a LinkedIn endorsement, and Nana's doing the mental calculus. 1 monk maybe escape, 2 monks definitely not, 2 monks and a shadow kaiju, time to update the will. The lion-rabbit proverb gets deployed with maximum smugness, which is how you know these guys are overcompensating. Real apex predators don't quote their own LinkedIn headlines before the kill. Garden path, 2 hooded figures, and Nana's still serving executive realness while asking for their quarterly objectives. The Hidden Shadow sect really needs to workshop their intimidation strategy against women who have survived boardrooms. The second monk suggests just breaking her limbs, which is one way to escalate from "please come with us" to "we're definitely the villains here," and Nana responds by growing a flower that looks like it violates several botanical laws. The monks stare at this botanical war crime like they didn't expect the rabbit to bring a bioweapon, and Nana's already calculating her exit: "buy time, don't die, standard Tuesday." Then the red eyes activate, not Bakuto's, something else's, and the temperature in the panel drops 10 degrees because that's not cultivation aura, that's your life insurance, just lapsed energy. The shadow goes full kaiju over the skyline and Nana's enveloped in purple like she's being digested by a color, which is the hidden shadow sex idea of hospitality: come for the kidnapping, stay for the spiritual digestion. Cut to the fake Bakuto grinning with a golden talisman, which is our first confirmation that Ama Joe's running the body double meta and the real Bakuto's probably eating cup noodles somewhere, furious about identity theft. The actual Bakuto, confirmed by the cup noodle diet and the existential dread, is doing shift work and conjuring green butterflies like that's a normal coping mechanism for a former Continental Champion, which honestly fair. The butterfly construct flutters off to do whatever spiritual surveillance butterflies do, and Bakuto's already missing gourmet food he never had. The reincarnation package really skimped on the lifestyle perks. White-haired Bakuto, the body double, the fake, the kept alive by me guy, is having his own meltdown over canned dinner while the real one's out here with actual problems, and the parallel is almost poetic if it weren't so pathetic. The rage peaks with "why do I have to suffer just because I look like him," which is the most relatable villain origin story since I was rejected by my crush, except this one's funded by a shadow cult and a spirit vessel ring. The gagged man screams around his gag while the old man rages at a box, and somewhere in this chain of suffering is the truth. The hidden shadow sect runs on stolen faces, stolen lives, and the occasional stolen origami butterfly. The butterfly glows green in its box, the old man kneels in shock, and the shadow with pink lips asks "who are you?", which is the question everyone's asking, because at this point we've got 3 Bakutos, 2 sects, and 0 honest answers. Some lackey shouts into a phone that the boss's target just showed underpowered, and Yaemori Bakuto strolls down that moonlit path like he's walking to a convenience store at 2 a.m. Green energy crackles overhead, and Bakuto stands there with his hands in his pockets, basically daring the universe to try something. Meanwhile, that serene waterfall in the background is doing more emotional regulation than most therapists. He spots the ambush before it spots him, because of course he does. Stage 2 cultivation comes with built-in paranoia and the social awareness of someone who's been stabbed in the back by his entire raid guild. The goon squad rolls underpowered with Scarface leading the charge. Pointing and screaming "get him like this" is a Twitch chat trying to cancel someone, and Bakuto's purple aura ignites because he's officially done with the tutorial phase of his evening. Onaga Reizu watches from the sidelines with that smug eye ordered the hit energy, while Bakuto's fist comes down with enough purple force to make the recipient reconsider several life choices. Dark tendrils of shadow creep from behind some poor soul who just realized he's in the wrong genre. Bakuto delivers a punch that rhymes with "duck underpowered someone's entire afternoon," then holds the last conscious goon by his collar with the casual menace of a customer service representative who's about to ask to speak to a manager. So, whose orders was it? Cut to Suga Shizuru getting the greenhouse treatment from some suits, because apparently everyone in this city has a secondary location and a tertiary kidnapping schedule. The Manhwa really said, what if we made the side quest a main quest too? Amaya Yuki's doing her own detective work, tablet in hand, and the realization hits her like a bad gacha pull. He was at the party that days because nothing says trustworthy like a man who crashes pharmaceutical galas and leaves origami butterflies as calling cards. Bakuto smirks like he knows exactly how this episode ends, while Yuki rolls underpowered to 432 Kugu Street with the energy of someone about to confront their catfish, phone glowing, location pinned, emotional damage preloaded. That text message with the address lands like a DM from your ex at 3 a.m. You know it's a trap, you know you shouldn't engage. And yet here we are, walking straight into the mansion with 0 backup and maximum main character syndrome. Yuki's out here confronting people with that teal jacket authority, while some guy with his arm in a sling points toward the mansion like a very injured tour guide, and the older man offering Bakuto water with that smile has "I am definitely about to betray you" written all over his face. Yuki storms in screaming Yaemori like she's about to demand a refund, then freezes when she actually sees him, Amatani, because nothing derails a righteous accusation like the wrong target and a glass of water you definitely shouldn't drink. She's waving around tablet evidence, timestamped and everything, screaming about Aunt Nana's kidnapping while Bakuto hits her with the most devastating counter in debate club history. Aunt Nana was kidnapped. And you suspect me, though I have an alibi and you're about to feel real stupid special. Bakuto grins with that I have receipts energy and pulls underpowered the chat history with Lord Sauma, timestamped late last night. While Yuki's about to unleash cultivator punishment before she realizes the man she's threatening was literally with the actual villain, plot twist, she's been chasing the body double this whole time. The realization drops on Yuki like a surprise comeback stage. Lord Sauma's subordinates, it wasn't your doing. And that older man with the smug smile holding the phone is absolutely eating this underpowered popcorn in hand, watching two people figure out they've been playing different games on the same board. Yuki stares at Bakuto's back like she's trying to read patch notes through sheer willpower, while that white-haired man in glasses sits there with the energy of someone who's about to monologue about his evil plan, the hoodie detail, the clenched hands, though I've been keeping this fake alive backstory practically radiating off him. Yuki gasps a spiritual vessel, with the exact energy of someone who just found out their limited edition photo card is actually a reprint. The betrayal runs deep, the lore runs deeper, and Bakuto's staring at that phone like it owes him money. Yuki pivots from accusation to alliance with the speed of a bias wrecker climbing your rankings. I'm going to settle this with Sauma. And Bakuto's just standing there like, great, now she wants to storm the villain's castle with me. This is not how I planned my Tuesday. Two monks in yellow robes stand there gossiping like it's a Discord moderator meeting, casually reporting that they captured Yaemori last night as if that's a Tuesday chore. The man in the white suit laughs like he just heard the funniest VTuber clip. Then Onaga Reizu leans in with that slicked-back villain hair and says he'll rip out Bakuto's tongue personally before letting Yuki finish the job. The police chief really said I'll hold him down, you get the kill credit, that's not a murder plot, that's a Twitch collab. The location drops, Kogan Temple, which sounds like a dungeon raid lobby and probably has the same energy. Guards in suits stand around looking like they queued for ranked and got auto-filled. Some smug guy in sunglasses lurks behind the greeter like he's the final boss's unpaid intern, and this Master Joe gets the full VIP welcome, red carpet, bowing, the whole main character treatment. Except the real main character is currently tied underpowered in a van. One of the goons gets jumpy about throwing away communicators. Sir, that's not operational security, that's just bad party planning. The white-haired man with the purple eye glow glares like his prescription ran out and he's seeing betrayal everywhere. Then some poor guy in a blue suit clutches his head in distress, while the man in white stands behind him like a customer service manager who already knows he's denying the refund. White van pulls away kicking underpowered dust, the universal Manhwa signal that someone's getting taken to a secondary location. A hooded figure escorts a tight underpowered man while barking, "Don't try anything stupid, buddy. If he was going to try something smart, he wouldn't be in the van." Then we cut to some guy in a lab coat clasping his hands together with the energy of a pharmaceutical exec about to pitch a side effect list. The man in white finally faces our guy with that we meet again smugness that only works if you actually won the first time. Bakuto stares back, red eyes glowing like his graphics card just hit max load and drops the most deadpan mister. Ama, what exactly are you trying to do? He's not scared, he's disappointed, and that is infinitely worse for the villain. The whole group stands there in a wide shot that screams boss arena loaded, two monks flanking the white suit like ads before the main phase. Then the panel cuts to pure white void with red claw marks, the manga equivalent of loading cutscene, please wait. And then Ama Joe grins, full maniac, eyes wide and crazed like he just got his bias's fan call accepted and immediately forgot how to act human. Ama points at Bakuto like he's selecting a file to delete, and our guy just looks to the side with the expression of someone who's already read the spoilers. Bakuto's response to this whole kidnapping murder conspiracy situation, that's it, that's why you're trying to kill me. The emotional damage is critical hit, unblocked, no resistance. He's not even running a defense build, he's just built different. Ama adjusts his tie while purple flames erupt around him, this is fine meme but he's the fire. He says killing Bakuto now would be a waste, which is villain speak for I have a monologue prepared and you're going to hear it. Then the panel dissolves into a vortex of pink and black energy, and this monstrous spectral thing lunges forward with glowing white eyes and a grin that has too many teeth. The shadow art isn't a technique, it's a tax write-off for souls. Ama gestures to his summoned horror like he's presenting a PowerPoint on quarterly earnings, calling it something a nobody like Bakuto will never experience, a divine act. Bakuto, meanwhile, is just processing this like he's reading patch notes for a boss he already cleared in beta. Is this a summoning type skill? He's not impressed, he's cataloging. The man is running a mental wiki entry while the villain is doing his big moment. Ama clasps his hands with that sinister smile, the classic I've been waiting to say this pose, and the masked void face figure starts conjuring blue energy around their hands like they're charging a spirit bomb on a budget. The whole scene reeks of my first cultivation ritual energy, except these guys think they're profound. Bakuto scene stage 11, my dude, your little glowstick party isn't registering on his threat meter. Then Bakuto drops the real bomb, red eyes blazing, blue energy crackling, the one who abducted and murdered her. Will be you. He's not guessing, he's testifying. Ama's face shifts from smug to wait, this wasn't in the script, and that what's that supposed to mean, is the exact sound of a villain's plan encountering the protagonist's actual brain cells. The masked figure yanks on Bakuto's ropes like, did you hear that? And Bakuto, still tied underpowered, just looks back with the calm of someone who absolutely heard that and has been waiting for this exact line. Then the panel cuts, hoodie, baseball cap, mask pulled down, and Yuki's voice drops clean and cold. Yes. I heard everything. The eavesdropper was in the building the whole time. Ama Joe's entire scheme just got live-streamed to his own victim. The scientist with the glowing blue eyes is having the worst days of his employment because Yuki just called the Seishu family and told our boy he can stand down now. She thinks this is a police procedural, bless her heart. Ama Joe holds underpowered a phone showing Aunt Nana in chains like he's presenting a vacation slideshow and asks Yuki if she's really going to interfere with the man holding her aunt's life hostage. This is emotional leverage with a PowerPoint deck. Bakuto looks at his own phone like it personally offended him because the man on the other end just said Aunt Nana has already been secured. Though already is doing so much heavy lifting here, that's villainese for I planned this while you were still choosing your outfit. Cut to Gyugenji Mountain descent path, where Ama Joe's entourage has gathered with the energy of a team-building retreat that accidentally hired actual cultists. One guy's carrying an injured colleague like it's the trust fall gone wrong. Ama Joe discovers his own guy betrayed him, which is the most predictable plot twist since Gravity. Yuki looks at Bakuto like maybe he predicted this, and Bakuto stands there with the expression of a man who absolutely predicted this but is too polite to say told you so. The scientist screams that he'll hold Yuki back, and Yuki, finally done with this entire department of incompetence, lunges forward wrapped in pink energy like she just unlocked her ultimate ability. Ama Joe points at her with the confidence of a man who has never been punched by a woman who actually knows cultivation. A bald monk throws hands and immediately regrets his career choices because Bakuto is done playing the frail ex-fiancé. The cloud shadow step activates, names a bit on the nose, but when you're moving this fast you get to name your own techniques. The clash sends debris everywhere and Yuki actually gasps out loud, this is Yaemori's true strength, which is adorable because we are still watching this man hold back. This is his tutorial mode, his let me check if the controller works energy. A shadowy figure with glowing red eyes lunges from behind like every jump scare in every cultivation manhwa ever, and the bald monk sweats through his robe because he knows. The blue energy blast that follows is not a technique, it's a personality trait at this point. Ama Joe stares at Bakuto with the slow-dawning horror of a man who just realized he threatened the wrong person's dog. Yaemori, don't tell me you're a cultivator. The pause before cultivator is him mentally deleting his entire will. Bakuto erupts from the ground with blue flames around his foot and delivers the line he's been rehearsing since Chapter 1. I've been looking forward to meeting you for so long. The subtext is I have a spreadsheet of grievances and you are every column header. Hashimoto Akimasa's crimes scroll behind him like the world's most damning credit. Role, murder planning, kidnapping, dog harm. The dog harm is what puts him over the edge, let's be honest. Bakuto stares at the thing Ama Joe has become and asks the question we are all thinking, first stage cultivation. Let's rewind to the pension plan that ate its contributors. Ama Joe grabs two monks and treats them like a spirit kai smoothie, and the mad scientist captioning this panel is having the time of his life. The absorption is not clean, it is not dignified, and it absolutely violates several labor laws. Bakuto watches with the expression of a man who just saw someone try to pay rent with a stolen credit card. Then the purple eye opens, not a metaphor. A literal glowing purple eye the size of a dinner plate materializes in the void, and Ama Joe laughs like he just unlocked the secret ending of his own delusion. He screams about protecting trash, which is rich coming from a man who just liquefied his employees. Yuki screams run, which is the most sensible dialogue in this entire arc, and Bakuto dodges an energy blast that absolutely would have deleted his save point file. The two of them are thrown through the air like ragdolls in a washing machine, and Yuki gasps at the pressure like she just checked her credit score after a convention weekend. The spectral dragon manifests, not a small one, a colossal purple nightmare that absolutely should not fit in this temple's zoning permit. Ama Joe vomits black fluid, which is what happens when you drink two cultivators and chase it with hubris. Bakuto looks underpowered at this thing, and his response is not fear. It is the cloud shadow step and a battle cry that translates roughly to "I have seen worse" in a twice comeback stage, and I am not leaving. Oria dropped dead. The energy blasts are not techniques anymore, they are punctuation. Purple on purple on purple until the panel looks like someone spilled a whole grape soda on the colorist's desk. Then Bakuto lands the shadow art exposé mid-fight, because nothing says dominant like pausing to explain exactly why your opponent's entire power system is a parasitic pyramid scheme. You're completely worthless, he says, and the panel agrees. Spirit insects that parasitize humans and drain their spiritual energy. The shadow art is not a martial technique. It is a multi-level marketing scheme with teeth, and Bakuto just filed the class action lawsuit with his fist. Ama Joe hits the stone floor face first, and the impact has its own dedicated sound effect in the Korean edition, 2 syllables that together mean "that's it, you're done." He starts name-dropping the great-grandfather, the hidden shadow sect, every lineage credential he can remember, and Bakuto's only response is to ask if cultivation sects exist in this world too, which is the most devastatingly bored reaction to a death threat I have ever witnessed. Ama Joe screams that Bakuto is nothing more than a trivial existence, and the irony of this statement would require a separate video essay to fully unpack. Yuki stands there and tells Bakuto she has nothing to do with the Ama family anymore, which is the most dramatic way to say "I blocked them on all platforms." Bakuto just listens, red eyes glowing like he's calculating whether this counts as emotional progress or another death flag. She vows to reach the 3rd stage no matter what it takes, and the purple-eyed menace lurking in the shadows behind her suggests the sacrifices she's willing to make are not metaphorical. Bakuto's expression says he's seen this exact determination before, and it ended with a knife in his back. Bakuto pulls out the dispersing spirit pill, glowing blue like a tiny galaxy in his palm, and tells her this will fix her body's rampant energy problem. Yuki's face when she sees it is pure shock mixed with the dawning realization that her entire cultivation method was just called a bug in the patch notes. He drops the real talk: if she keeps going like this, she won't just fail to cultivate, she'll straight underpowered shorten her lifespan. Yuki gasps a deal, like he's proposing marriage instead of a tutorial on not dying. The negotiation has begun, and Bakuto's terms are "stop killing yourself, I'll handle the rest." Then he hits her with the line, "Don't you want to learn what real cultivation is?" And the look in his glowing red eyes is not a teacher's patience, it's a man who has already died once and is somehow still willing to try the mentor thing again. The definition of insanity or hope, depending on your translation. Cut to Yuki walking through an arched doorway with a suitcase, which is the most committed "I'll sleep over" for tutoring energy in cultivation history. Bakuto peeks around the doorframe like a horror movie antagonist, except he's the one who should be afraid. She's blushing, he's confused, the domestic comedy writes itself. "I brought my belongings just like I promised," she says, and Bakuto responds with "your face is red," which is the emotional intelligence of a man who spent his last life killing demons and apparently skipped every social quest. She pushes past him, embarrassed, already regretting this arrangement. Bakuto shows her the silverheart grass glowing gently in its planter and explains that training near it will be good for her body. Roku the dog is just vibing on his back, living his best life, completely unaware he's now part of a cultivation training regimen. The dog has better work-life balance than both of them. He tells her to take care of the grass and the dog while he's gone, and Yuki catches that "while I'm gone" part with the sharp ears of someone who's been abandoned before. She teases him about making a gentle face, which is the first time anyone's described his resting murder expression as gentle. Progress. The dog gets named Roku, and Bakuto's face when he says it is a complicated emotion that the Manhwa gives exactly 1 panel to process. Roku barks approval. The dog likes it, "That's good. 3 sentences, 1 trauma, 0 elaboration. This is peak male communication." Masked figures lurk in the background because of course they do. No domestic scene is complete without assassination foreshadowing. Someone whispers Roku with the kind of pain that suggests this name means something else entirely in Bakuto's past life. Cut to Yuki in a towel, blushing, and the tonal whiplash is intentional. They're in his room now, which is somehow more domestic than the previous domestic scenes, and Yuki asks what he's going to do about the Ama family. Bakuto's response is pure calculated menace. Ama Joe will never disappear from among them. He says it with the smile of a man who has already picked out the replacement. Behind the Ama family estate, chains and talismans hang like the world's most aggressive Halloween decoration. Ama Tetsu stands with his associates, looking like a man who just found out his heir was murdered, and his first thought was, what will this do to quarterly projections? The clan head's composure is corporate first, grieving never. A distressed scientist in a lab coat sweats bullets while the gate begins to open, and the sound effect alone is doing more storytelling than most side characters. Two elders panic as the gate opens, and then a massive clawed paw slams down with enough force to create its own shockwave. The family pet has arrived, and it is not a golden retriever. Ama Takuzo sits atop his shadow lion like the world's most disturbing grandfather, prayer beads in hand, radiating the kind of power that makes Stage 2 cultivators reconsider their career choices. He laughs, and the laugh is not a happy sound. It is the sound of a man who has buried 3 generations of enemies and kept their rings as souvenirs. The great-grandfather descends on his lion, white mane flowing, and calls for Joe to come here. Ama Satoshi answers instead, because Joe is currently being composted by Bakuto's fist. The scientist breaks down crying about being useless, and Takuzo's response is to ask if they can't even handle him, the him being Bakuto, who has no idea he's now the benchmark for Ama family competence. Takuzo stares down at his failed descendants with the expression of a man who just realized he'll have to do everything himself, and the next act of this story just got its final boss appointment. Bakuto's teaching a girl to meditate. The Ama great-grandfather is mounting a war beast. The patch notes for this arc are going to be brutal. Yaemori looks at Yuki with the red-eye intensity of a man who has buried 3 disciples and decided to bury the trauma too, asking if she wants to learn what real cultivation actually is. He parks them on rocks in a public park because nature has the best spiritual energy spawn rates, while 3 elderly NPCs on a bench side-quest their way into judging his life choices from a distance. Yuki tries to meditate and immediately bricks it, which tracks because her previous training method was essentially force-feeding her body chaotic Kai until her spiritual immune system filed for bankruptcy. Bakuto drops the fundamental gap between them. She was running cultivation at 40% efficiency like a laptop from 2009, and his method hits a clean 100% because he actually read the patch notes. She closes her eyes, reaches for nothing, and finds exactly that. The void stares back. She sweats through her spiritual pores, and the elderly gossip squad upgrades their diagnosis from weird kids to definitely occult. Bakuto touches her forehead and suddenly the tutorial unlocks. She sees spiritual energy for the first time, glowing and beautiful, and her brain processes this as either enlightenment or the world's most invasive aura farm. He explains the true essence of spiritual energy in this world, which is basically it's invisible because the server population is too high and the mana density got nerfed, and if she grinds hard enough she can hit Kai refinement stage 1. Cut to Yuki in a bathtub having what can only be described as a full emotional system crash. She screams into the water, resurfaces with the determination of a woman who has chosen violence against her own mediocrity, and vows to reach stage 1 if it kills her. Bakuto walks away from his new disciple with the confidence of a man who has absolutely not considered what happens if the Ama family shows underpowered while he's on a bus to Ryuja, which is exactly where he's heading next. He boards the night bus, the driver gives him the few passengers, sit wherever treatment with the kind of smile that suggests this route has seen things, and Bakuto's red eyes narrow because Ryuja is not a destination you pick for the tourism board. Some office woman is threatening to send Agata on a business trip to a country that definitely has malaria, which is the most relatable villain energy this series has produced so far. 6 hours into Bakuto's bus ride west, he's staring out the window with the 1,000-yard gaze of a man who has already calculated 17 ways to kill everyone on this vehicle. The bus window explodes. A bald man in red goes full panic mode because nobody told him this was a player versus player server. Armed men swarm the vehicle like it's a raid spawn, and one poor guy in a tracksuit is already getting grabbed before he can finish his sentence about Kamikaze. The tracksuit guy manages to get out half a conspiracy theory about Hanadate and Kamikaze before getting choked from behind. A suited man with a glowing knife stands over a fallen body like he's auditioning for a K-drama villain role. The whole bus is now a hostage situation with worse catering. Bakuto hasn't moved from his seat, which is either supreme confidence or he left his cultivation build on autopilot. A cloaked figure with spiky hair stares out at the green blur of trees, probably wondering if bus insurance covers armed robbery. The masked passenger in blue holds a black case like it's the only thing standing between them and an existential crisis. Someone on the bus notices wind where there shouldn't be wind, which is always the worst kind of foreshadowing. A blue energy fist erupts from nowhere and sends a man flying through shattered glass like the universe itself filed a complaint. Bakuto is already outside, having exited through what I can only assume was the ceiling. Bakuto stands in the road with glowing red eyes and tells the entire ambush squad he'll take them all at once, which is the kind of main character privilege that gets you banned from ranked. The attackers scream and charge like they didn't just watch their buddy become a windshield. Bakuto strikes once, and the impact produces a liquid that I will diplomatically describe as aggressively organic. The aftermath is not pretty. Two figures stand over a body while Bakuto stares forward with the emotional range of a man who just finished his grocery list. The masked passenger with the briefcase finally looks underpowered with wide eyes, realizing the quiet guy in the back row was the final boss this whole time. Achievement unlocked, bus seat lottery jackpot. The survivors gather around the broken bus in the middle of nowhere. No cell signal, no roadmap, and absolutely no faith in public transportation ever again. Two men stand in the rocks looking like they just failed the tutorial zone. Bakuto leans against a tree with his arms crossed, already bored of this side quest. The masked figure approaches Bakuto directly, briefcase in hand, and proposes a deal: escort her to Kanemoto and get rewarded. Bakuto says he's not interested, which is the most honest thing a cultivation protagonist has ever said to a quest giver. She is visibly surprised, probably because every other manhwa mech would have already adopted her as a little sister by now. Hanadate Banri, the man who shot Fuyu and thought he was collecting a debt, is now standing over his own fallen men in the forest. His subordinates are screaming about Tabata being at the scene, which is the kind of alibi that only works if your boss cares about employee retention. He does not. One of his men is apologizing like his life depends on it, which it absolutely does. Hanadate sits there in sunglasses with the energy of a man who just watched his quarterly projections get deleted by a single cultivator. He asks if it was just one kid who did all this, and the subordinate's silence is the loudest yes in manhwa history. Meanwhile, his scouts are reporting that the masked woman smelled like a woman, which is the kind of detective work that explains why they're working for Hanadate and not solving actual crimes. He tells them to talk, meaning confess their failures faster. The bald enforcer points aggressively at someone who definitely did not sign underpowered for this performance review. Someone finally connects the dots to Kunieta's place in Kanemoto, which means our protagonists have maybe one scene of peace before the next wave of job applicants for the get beaten by a cultivator position arrives. The other survivors are demanding to be let out too, because nothing says we're in this together like shared trauma and poor forest reception. The Hanadate survivors look genuinely afraid now, which is growth. The forest canopy shifts to rain and mist, nature's way of saying your boss is coming and he brought reinforcements. Then we get the title drop, Kanemoto, a town that looks peaceful until you remember what genre this is. Bakuto walks through Kanemoto with his red eyes on full display because subtlety is for people who haven't already tanked a bus ambush. The hooded woman, Fuyu, still gripping that briefcase like it contains her will to live, says she wants to avoid drawing attention. Bakuto's entire aura suggests he has never avoided attention in any of his lives. They find Kunieta Suguru, the elderly guide of Kanemoto, who is currently kneeling and petting a dog with the serenity of a man who does not yet know his days is about to get complicated. He looks underpowered with a neutral HM that will age poorly. Fuyu greets him, and the three of them walk together under a sky so clear it feels like false advertising. Kunieta recognizes Fuyu and immediately tells them to stay inside the shop, which is the hospitality equivalent of the tornado sirens are going off. Bakuto, wearing a cap and scarf like he's cosplaying a normal person, mentions years of illness as his cover story. The older man's face shifts from welcoming to something more guarded. Enter Yame, the blonde loan shark boss with a scar and the smugness of a man who thinks compound interest is a personality trait. He arrives with his entourage because debt collection is apparently a team sport now. Kunieta looks at him with the exhaustion of someone who's done this before. Yame says if they can't pay today, they have no more chances, which is creditor poetry for I'm about to make this worse. The courtyard fills with Yame's men in a circle, which is either a negotiation tactic or they're about to break into a musical number. Bakuto's red eyes are staring through this entire performance like he's already read the script. Kunieta shouts in rage, but the scarred blonde just smirks harder because nothing feeds a lone shark like other people's desperation. Bakuto warns that Hanadate and the others will come here too, because apparently one group of violent creditors wasn't enough narrative tension. Fuyu steps forward and declares she'll cover Kunieta's debt, which is either noble or a sign that she has never met a lone shark's definition of final offer. Cuneta immediately tells her she shouldn't, because he has met that definition repeatedly. Cuneta's urgent warning to Fuyu lands with the weight of every previous person who tried to pay off a predatory loan. Yame's man holds underpowered a sparkling object, probably the Ayu, probably cursed, definitely not worth what they're about to demand. Then the man with glowing blue eyes and a grin that belongs in a horror movie holds underpowered the paper and says they're settling this with dice. Bakuto and Cuneta shout that they never heard about these terms, which is exactly what someone says right before they learn the terms the hard way. Yame claps with the satisfaction of a man who just activated his trap card. Enter William, the dealer in a tuxedo and glasses, who bows with the professionalism of someone who rigs games for a living. William says it's an honor to meet them, which is dealer speak for I'm about to take everything you have. Bakuto and Cuneta look grim because even they can read this room. Yame leans on William's shoulder like they are old friends, or like he's making sure the rigged dice stay rigged. The setup is so obvious it practically has a user manual. Yame grins with blue eyes and asks if they'll do it anyway because loan sharks love consent almost as much as they love compound interest. Bakuto's red eyes narrow, not in fear, in calculation. He's already running the odds, and the odds say William's sleeve button is about to become very famous. Bakuto looks determined under that cap, the expression of a man who has already decided how this ends. A blindfolded man sits at the table with a cup over his head, which is either a dice ritual or the local entertainment. Then Bakuto glares forward with pure anger because someone just threatened the one thing he actually cares about, and it's not the money. The loan sharks laugh like they already split Fuyu's briefcase 3 ways, which is the confidence of men who have never been out-cheated by a cultivator with a hearing-based build. Fuyu glares from behind the dice cup with the energy of someone who absolutely did not sign underpowered for this questline, then shouts even with the confidence of a woman who can hear the pips landing. The dice come underpowered 9, which is odd, which is wrong, which means Cuneta hands over the Ayu with the enthusiasm of a man watching his retirement fund evaporate. Fuyu shakes the cup like she's trying to wake it underpowered, calls odd with gray-haired determination, and William leans in with the smile of a man whose sleeve button is about to do the heavy lifting. Bakuto's eyes go red, which is his eye can hear the electromagnetic frequency of your cheating device look, and he mutters it's here like a man who just found the tutorial boss's weak point. William calls triples with the serenity of someone who controls the outcome. Fuyu shouts that the match is theirs with the desperation of someone who absolutely does not control the outcome, and Bakuto lets out a ha that contains multitudes. The dice land in a configuration that makes William's smile flicker for exactly 1 frame, and the debt collectors start sweating like they just realized their rigged game has been reverse-engineered by a Stage 2 cultivator with trust issues. Kashiro grins with the yellow aura smugness of a man who still thinks he's the final boss. Fuyu slams the cup down like she's trying to break the table's spirit, and the dice rattle with the sound of impending karma. Fuyu looks at the cup like it's a final exam she didn't study for. William reaches for it with the gentleness of a man who's about to steal her last hope, and Bakuto finally steps in with the I've heard enough energy of someone who's been holding back the whole episode. The debt collectors ask who the hell he is, which is the wrong question. The right question is how fast can you run when a cultivator exposes your entire operation in front of the people you've been extorting, and the answer is, not fast enough. Bakuto stares at William with the red-eyed intensity of a man who's been counting cards in a casino that doesn't know it's being audited, and says he'll take odd triples. The debt collectors laugh like men who have never met someone who can hear dice whisper, and William's purple eyes flicker with the panic of a streamer whose cheat code just got broadcast live. Bakuto says of course with the confidence of someone who's already seen the ending, while William's hands glow purple and he grins like the money's already in his offshore account. The dice land, and the debt collectors' faces do that thing where math stops working, because odd triples just came underpowered in a game that was supposed to be mathematically impossible. William starts screaming about impossibility while Fuyu slams the table with the righteous fury of someone who just got their refund approved, and then William slips. Bakuto finishes his sentence for him, because that's what you do when someone's confession is writing itself, and points out the button on William's sleeve with the disappointment of a teacher who expected better. Fuyu shouts about the cheating with the volume of someone who's been losing to a rigged game for hours, and the debt collectors panic like their guild leader just got exposed for buying gold. Bakuto says he can do more than move dice, which is the most understated way to announce I can also move your organs, and the purple energy in the room suddenly feels less like a party trick and more like a medical warning. William gets thrown back by invisible force, then choked by it, while Bakuto stands there looking like he's calculating shipping costs rather than murder and says the debt is cleared. The blonde debt collector yells like a man whose subscription to invincibility just expired, and William gets choked harder while Bakuto asks for the Ayu with the patience of a DMV clerk who knows you'll comply eventually. Someone asks if they want to die, which is a rhetorical question when Bakuto's already demonstrated the answer, and the papers get handed over with the enthusiasm of a resignation letter. Bakuto tells Fuyu and Kunieta to take the papers and get out, and they move with the urgency of people who have seen what happens to the supporting cast in cultivation stories. Outside, Fuyu asks if he did anything, and the men say William was shaking like crazy, which is what happens when your cheat device gets outed by someone who treats telekinesis like a party trick. William stands there broken, sweating through his tuxedo like he just ran a marathon in a sauna, and Bakuto tore his sleeve open to expose the button, because nothing says checkmate like physical evidence you can't patch out. The convoy rolls out with all the optimism of a group chat planning a road trip. Military trucks, covered cargo, and absolutely nobody asking why the transport to Ryuja looks like a heist movie's third act. Our guy sits with Yuki Fuyu clutching that briefcase like it contains the last PS5 on Earth, and the red-eyed stare says he's already calculating 17 ways this goes wrong. The briefcase gets a glance, a question, and 0 answers, classic Fuyu. Yuki's face is doing that thing where she's trying to look determined, but her eyes are screaming we're in a truck with strangers and no cell service. The sun-drenched road ahead looks peaceful, which in this genre means the ambush is loading. New passengers, new problems. Some hooded figure with main character disguise energy warns milliseconds. Rei to watch herself, and Kasumi Rei's surprised you can tell, confirms she's never played Among Us. Kohei Chino throws a thumbs underpowered with the confidence of a man who's about to be revealed as completely useless. An elderly woman smiles like she doesn't know she's in a cultivation manhwa, while some cloaked fraud promises to find the legendary cultivator. The Kushin-style founder was apparently a cultivator from Ryuja, which means this entire Find the Master quest is just a local returning home with extra steps. Bakuto sits arms crossed, already bored of the pre-ambush small talk. Then the panel screams watch out, the truck swerves, and that blinding flash of light is not a photography enthusiast, it's the we're being attacked notification with no snooze option. The onomatopoeia panel hits different when it's the sound of your safety margin being permanently deleted. The truck's crammed with anxious faces, the scarred man grins like he planned this, and the fallen tree blocking the road is not a landscaping error. Kunieta's arranged transport just became the worst Yelp review of his life, expected scenic route, got armed robbery 2 stars. The suits emerging from trucks with knives confirm this is a coordinated welcome committee. The older man smiles with a cigarette like he's not about to watch his men die. Then the blue energy beam pierces a skull and the tone shifts from tense negotiation to Yaemori. Bakuto has entered the chat. Blood pools. Onomatopoeia gets creative. And the man cleaning his knife with a handkerchief is performing hygiene theater while surrounded by corpses. The screamed "we're going to be killed" is not hyperbole, it's patch notes for the next 30 seconds. The sunglasses and knife combo says slit your throat with the casual energy of a Starbucks order, but the real horror is the treasure comment. These guys didn't come for money, they came for cultivators. A woman screams stop it, pink-haired terror pleads hurry, and the hooded figure grimacing in pain is having the worst commute of their life. The group walking down that tree-lined road looks like survivors of a difficulty spike the game never warned them about. Yuki's whispered warning, they have guns, even a cultivator is no match for a gun, lands like a system notification with no dismiss button. Bakuto's red eyes don't blink, because he's already done the math and the math says catch the bullet. The sinister grin asking a cultivator, followed by then you shouldn't die even if you take a bullet. Right is the most dangerous rhetorical question in the genre, because the man holding that pistol has no idea he's aiming at someone who treats firearms like tutorial obstacles. The kneeling despair, the horrified no way, and then Shizuru's voice cutting through with the promise that started this whole disaster, you said you'd find a cultivator and cure my grandfather. The rage response, shut underpowered, it was obviously all a lie, lands with the weight of every broken questline in existence. But here's the thing about lying to people who have already met Yaemori. Bakuto. The cultivator they're looking for is sitting in the truck behind them, and he's just finished proving that bullets are, in fact, a skill issue. The wounded man coughs out his gang's code like a dying side quest non-player character handing you the final clue, and his buddy sobs apologies to Minamino and Yaemori like they're already reading the eulogy. Our guy just grabs the girl in the green cap, pulls her close, and drops the line that single-handedly raises this series' emotional damage stat. He won't let anyone die, not on his respawn. The scarred man in glasses finally shows underpowered with his backup dancers, smirking like he just read the villain's script early. He names it an immortal technique like he's posting a tier list, then points his gun at the camera with the confidence of someone who's never met a stage 2 cultivator. Bakuto just stands there in sunglasses and blue hair, aura humming like a server farm, waiting for the tutorial boss to finish monologuing. The gun barrel glows white-hot, Kai-infused rounds chambering like this man brought a cheat engine to a player-versus-player match. He fires. Bakuto doesn't dodge, he catches. The scarred man's face collapses from smug to existential crisis in 2 frames, screaming like his subscription to villainy just got cancelled mid-season. The gun didn't just fail, it got outclassed by a handshake. Bakuto pulls out that ornate blade with the purple runes, the one that screams "I bought this from a secret shop you can't access yet," and tells the panicking gunman not to rush. He'll find out soon enough. The man on the ground clutching his side is learning what every antagonist in this series eventually learns. Bakuto's idea of a tutorial is everyone else's idea of a raid wipe. Bystanders are doing the mental math, whispering, is he really a cultivator, like they haven't watched him delete 30 men since breakfast. The older man in glasses recovers from his shock long enough to shout "finish him off," which is the most predictable line in the villain handbook and also the last thing you say before your men become background scenery. The mob charges. Bakuto's already moved on to the next encounter in his head. The knives come out, the fist crackles blue, and then it's just sportscaster mode. Bakuto's red eyes ignite, purple aura detonating like someone maxed his graphic settings without asking. He fires the gun back at them, Kai-enhanced muzzle flash painting the forest in his colors, bodies flying in every direction like he just pressed the ultimate ability button. This is not a fight. This is a demonstration of why the patch notes nerfed everyone else. The survivors are doing the anime stagger, the sweatband guy looking like his save point file just corrupted, the bandaged man realizing he's in the wrong difficulty setting. Then the masked figure with glowing red eyes appears behind the sweating man, and that "huh" is the single most relatable dialogue in this chapter. We've all had that moment where we turn around and the final boss was standing there the whole time. Birds scatter, someone runs through the campsite gasping like their cardio build finally failed them, and then the foot comes down on the crate. The sound design team in the Korean edition definitely earned their paycheck here, 2 syllables that translate to "you shouldn't have looked inside." The cloaked man falls, clutching his leg, and the audience at home is already screaming it's the rocket launcher, isn't it? The blue wooden crate sits there innocent as a loot box, and the young man in the dark cloak looks underpowered with the exact face of someone who just rolled a legendary drop he didn't ask for. The rocket launcher is right there, tan and terrible, the kind of weapon that says "I couldn't beat the cultivator, so I brought hardware from a different genre entirely." Chino's voice cracks on the exclamation like even he's surprised the writers went there. The cloaked man walks away from the tent like he's leaving a group project he never signed underpowered for, but the sharp-faced man in the shadows is already glaring with the intensity of someone who's about to press the fire button. The kneeling apology, the bowed head, the standing man with hands in pockets, it's the power dynamic of every boss fight entrance, and the guy on the ground clutching his chest is learning that cultivator doesn't mean immune to emotional damage. Bakuto stands over the kneeling man with the reddish-brown hair, spiky dark silhouette against the forest green, and the middle-aged man in glasses is shouting in distress like his quarterly report just got rejected by the board. But Bakuto's the one who speaks, and his frustration is the most human thing we've seen from him. "All of you keep saying the same thing." He extends his hand, blue aura swirling, glowing red eyes dimming to something almost tired. The strongest man on a continent, and he's still exhausted by how small the villains think. The man in the suit lies prone, the standing figure walks away with the group, and the pink-haired woman watches with the concern of someone who's seen this before. But Bakuto's hand on his shoulder, that stern expression, says what the narration doesn't need to. The rocket launcher is coming, the key is still unknown, the father's warning unheeded, and the strongest man in the world is still running toward the one thing he can't fight. Cut to black, hold the silence. Let the audience feel the weight of a title that finally makes sense. Bakuto's hands crackle with blue fire and something nastier underneath, the kind of energy that makes bystanders reconsider their life choices. He's not even trying to look human at this point, and honestly, the aesthetic is working for him. The red eyes come out, which in this universe is basically the "I am no longer asking" indicator. He throws a blast that redecorates the landscape, and somewhere a geologist is crying because that rock formation took 10,000 years. The survivors look underpowered with the universal expression of "we picked the wrong questline." One of them is already doing the regret monologue, which in manhwa terms means he's either about to die or become comic relief. The explosion answers that question. Yuki grabs him with the desperate energy of someone who just realized her travel buddy is a walking war crime, asking if they should turn back before they become the next crater. The bus driver has entered his main character moment, refusing to move unless Bakuto stays on board. Apparently saved everyone on this bus is now a valid form of ID in Ryuda, which honestly, better security than most isekai towns. Enter the Bokuto Society, which sounds like a pottery club but is actually the Yakuza with better branding. Their current boss inherited the position the old-fashioned way by personally deleting 5 rival factions from the map. Ours nightmare, effective leadership. Yasuke and Koya are doing the classic "we're not even using our full power villain" pose, which in any other series would be a death flag. Here it's just Tuesday. Some poor fool tries to invoke Kamikaze like it's a credit card with no limit. Minamino Satoru steps out adjusting his glove like he's about to serve tennis instead of judgment. The green eye glow is subtle, which in this universe means he's either suppressing massive power or he's just that confident. Spoiler, it's both. The Kamikaze name drop hits different when the guy saying it is visibly sweating through his suit. Minamino's expression doesn't change, which is somehow more terrifying than any glare. He's got the eye and the administrator energy, and everyone knows it. Bakuto drops in with the red eyes and the smirk that says he's been waiting for this conversation. Kamikaze couldn't care less. The words land like a patch note, nerfing an entire faction, and the city itself seems to hold its breath. The scream echoes through Ryuda like a server-wide announcement. Someone's having a very bad days, and it's not the guy with the glowing eyes. Bakuto's crew finally catches underpowered, one of them already planning a snack run for Fuyu like this is a field trip. "Now let's go meet her." The kind of line that sounds innocent until you remember everyone in this party has a body count. They're walking from here, cars can't go inside, which in Ryuda probably means the streets themselves are afraid of what they're bringing in. The checkpoint guard spots Kunieta's car and nearly chokes on his cigarette, which is the universal sign that somebody important just arrived without warning. Rei Kasumi stumbles out looking like she's seen a ghost in 3 different time zones, and Fuyu hands over the vial like she's closing a tab at a bar she never wants to visit again. Bakuto holds the divine water and his eyes go from white to "I just downloaded the entire server." The vial crackles against his palm like it's trying to tell him secrets he already knew in another life. He doesn't say much, which for him means he's calculating approximately 14 different ways this goes wrong. The bandaged man tries to negotiate passage like this is a toll booth and not a warlord's driveway. Fumiya grins with the energy of someone who absolutely failed kindergarten sharing lessons, and the pointing starts, always the pointing, as if identifying civilians as targets is a personality trait in this city. Kaya tries the human appeal, which works approximately never in Ryuda. The bandaged man pleads for the girl and Fumiya answers with an energy blast that says your feelings are noted and disregarded. The rage in that man's eyes is doing all the talking his mouth forgot how to do. The order comes down to tie them all underpowered, because apparently checkpoint is just Ryuda dialect for kidnapping opportunity. Bakuto's crew stands there with the collective energy of people who have been disrespected professionally and are about to file a very violent complaint. The smug man points at our guy like he's identifying a rare species, which, fair, stage 2 cultivators are basically endangered and about to go extinct all over his face. Yuki drops Minamino's name like it's a tactical nuke with a delivery confirmation, and the approaching thugs pause like their connection just lagged. The knife guy's smile says he knows something she doesn't, which in this city usually means the boss already got the memo and chose violence anyway. The swordsman swings and the shockwave hits like a system announcement nobody asked for. Bakuto watches the light bloom from some poor man's chest and his expression doesn't shift because he's already running the math on 5 moves ahead. Since when were we the ones bowing our heads? The kind of question that turns a negotiation into a funeral real fast. Silhouettes on the rooftop, suits on the street, Ryuda's entire social structure is just people standing in threatening formations until somebody blinks. Bakuto poses with his crew like they're about to drop the most aggressive album cover of the year, and the Bokutakai energy is thick enough to choke a lesser protagonist. Yuki waves brother with the enthusiasm of someone who just unlocked a secret ending, and the red-eyed man's joy is doing heavy lifting in this emotional economy. But then Minamino steps out with green eyes and a spiritual aura so thin it's basically a threat written in fine print. The demon of Ryuta doesn't announce himself, he just makes the air stop working. The Kamikaze goons look angry because anger is all they have left when the power gap hits. Minamino's "I'm only here to pick underpowered my sister" lands like the most devastating casual dismissal in shonen history, the kind of line that makes an entire faction realize they're background characters in someone else's arc. The older man's what is doing so much work, verbally and existentially. The energy blast connects and the thug discovers that getting hit by a cultivator is not on his insurance plan. Two men stare each other down in the classic "we both know this ends with one of us missing" configuration, and then Yasuke spots Fuyu and his entire personality reboots into pure joy. The man has golden flame fists and a heart that runs on reunion energy. It's honestly bias-wrecking material. Blue light silhouettes a man who thought he was the main character until approximately 5 seconds ago. The dagger grip tightens because desperation has its own choreography, and the final threat lands with the theatrical spite of someone who knows he's already lost. Hate yourself, the Ryuta special, projecting your own L onto anyone still standing. Yuki demands to know who cares about rules, and the answer is apparently nobody with a functioning survival instinct. The smug man's rules are an excuse for the weak is the kind of philosophy that gets you killed by someone stronger who also doesn't care about rules. Poetic, really. The defiant shout rises like a fan chant at the exact wrong concert, and the battle finally stops pretending to be a conversation. Swords out, chaos in, the Ryuta welcome wagon is officially here. Bakuto draws with that specific clack that announces somebody's tutorial just ended, and the impacts start landing before the sound effects finish downloading. Speed lines, energy arcs, the whole visual vocabulary of "we are not the same." He's moving at a frame rate these guys can't even render. The blue blast connects, and the cloaked figure learns what it means to be on the wrong side of a Continental Champion's patience. The masked man's head explodes in light like a spoiler warning for anyone else thinking of stepping underpowered, and Bakuto's eyes glow with the specific red that says he's been holding back so long he forgot what full throttle feels like. Speed of the cloud shadow step, he names his own technique like he's reading patch notes he wrote himself 50 years ago. The green-eyed punch lands and the older man's shock is doing portrait-worthy work. This is the face of someone who just realized Demon of Ryuta was an understatement. The panicked eyes, the sweat, the invisible force pushing him toward conclusions he doesn't want to reach, that's the Minamino experience, and Bakuto's just the opening act. The sound of fast movement fades like a chapter ending, but the real story's barely started breathing. Wakui's getting ideas above his station and Kamikaze's already measuring him for a coffin with that smile. The man with the mustache is sweating like he knows the coup's already started without him. Takagaki's sitting in that car like a man who's already done the math on everyone else's life expectancy. Turns out he's a cultivator too, one of those danger sense types who finds firearms terrifying, which is cultivator for I can dodge them but it annoys me. Bakuto's red eyes are doing that thing where they see through everyone's lies simultaneously. Then he's on a bed going phew, I'm exhausted, the strongest man on a continent, currently running on 4 hours of sleep and pure spite. The bar scenes giving found family in a dive bar energy, which is every cultivation protagonist's true habitat. Bakuto holds underpowered that vial like it's the answer to everything, and honestly, it probably is. The blue-haired guy recognizes the vial immediately, the item father left for Fuyu, and suddenly we're in a missing dad mystery with corporate stakes. The woman in the cap got it as a guard reward, which means she's been running protection detail for family heirlooms this whole time. The cultivator, reaction hits different when it's from someone whose dad was one. Bakuto's about to get voluntold into a family therapy session with punches. The trenchcoat guy's smile says he's been waiting for this spar since chapter 1. Bakuto's doing the my strength has increased speech while everyone else is just trying to keep underpowered with the lore drops. The plea to confirm my own strength is code for I need to know if I'm strong enough to find my missing dad, and we all know it. The denial hits hard, you are not a cultivator, and Bakuto's distress is genuine for once. Then he flips to menacing mode so fast it's whiplash, you'll only end underpowered getting hurt. The red eyes don't lie even when the mouth does. The bald elder in the rain is giving final boss of a Studio Ghibli film energy, and suddenly we're in a flashback that hits like a truck. Father's secret. The words land like a fan chant at the wrong concert, and everyone's face says they weren't ready. Bakuto's silence says everything. The worried blue-eyed guy is doing the math on how many secrets one man can carry before he breaks. Then Bakuto speaks, very well then, and that's the sound of a man choosing to carry one more. Now let us begin. The smirk is back, but it's different now. Waited. The red-haired guy's crossing his arms like he's ready to test the legendary cultivator hype personally. Even Yaemori has limits, but nobody's found them yet, and that's the whole point. The sparring starts and Bakuto's already running like he's got a patch note that says sprint speed increased by 400%. His partner throws a punch that could delete a save point file, and Bakuto's just no, we're not dodging, we're countering with main character privileges. The guy he's fighting gets grabbed by the collar with that "wait, this is player versus player, and I didn't read the patch notes" expression. Then the whole room goes white, somebody brought a flashbang to a fistfight and Bakuto's already counting. That's when he says like he's speedrunning a boss rush and we're only on the tutorial. Faki's in the corner hyped like he just got tickets to a twice comeback, and the two of them rush forward like it's a choreo they've practiced. Blue hair versus blue energy, red eyes versus whatever poor soul drew the short straw today. Bakuto's casting something that makes his fist look like it violates several terms of service. The opponent's using string manipulation like he's auditioning for Spider-Man, into the cultivation verse, and Bakuto's kicking through stone walls like they're made of budget animation. Red hair breaks through, determined as hell, and Bakuto stands there glowing like he just unlocked a legendary skin. The gap is supposed to be wide. The gap is supposed to matter. Then golden energy happens. Then how about this, the kind of line you shout when you've been holding back your ultimate for the entire match. Bakuto's engulfed in light that looks less like Kai and more like someone cranked the saturation to lethal levels. Punch, kick, everything glowing, everything breaking. This is not a spar anymore. This is a man proving something to himself with an audience. Masked figure with red eyes in the smoke, that's either Bakuto's inner demon or his cosplay budget finally paid off. Crystalline structures shatter like someone's breaking the fourth wall with a hammer. Three figures caught in the blast radius, and the red-haired fighter's bracing like he knows this is the moment the anime overpowered starts playing. I stopped him, now. Bakuto's calling plays like he's got a headset in a raid party, and the purple energy that answers looks like it was rendered on a player character that costs more than my car. Ground cracks, aura flares, and he's lunging forward with that expression that says he's not just winning, he's collecting evidence for the montage. The final blast fills the frame like someone set the particle effects to emotional damage. A hit. The surprise in his own voice is the most honest thing Bakuto's said in 30 chapters. He glares afterward, red eyes still burning, and you can see it. The realization, the math he doesn't want to do. And then the timer drops. 2 minutes. You've got to be kidding me. The red-haired man's screaming what we're all thinking because this whole spectacle, this golden ultra-mega whatever display, lasted less time than a twice B-side. Bakuto stands on cracked crystal, the arena of his own making, and says thank you for holding back with the kind of sincerity that hurts to hear. His hands behind his back, red eyes forward, and that silence afterward, just ellipses, just breathing because the truth landed harder than any punch. The gap in our power is far too wide. Not their power, he's including himself in the distance he still has to cross. The strongest man on a continent, reborn in a body called failure, just learned that 2 minutes of everything he has is barely enough to make a real cultivator sweat. The grind doesn't care about your past life. The grind says, patch notes incoming and you're not in the buff section. A hand closes around crystalline light, blue energy spilling between the fingers like something too precious to hold. Bakuto turns toward the glare, and the man beside him doesn't flinch. He lunges, blade first, because that's what you do when a continent's strongest ghost offers you a memory. Bakuto's eyes burn crimson against the digital blue, and he names it flat, a memory stone. The kind that needs a level 4 cultivator to forge, which means Fuyu's father was either hiding his real rank or died pretending to be smaller than he was. He explains the rules like a tutorial non-player character who knows the devs never finished the help text, residual image, no interactivity, the dead don't hear prayers. Then the glow resolves into a bald man in white, and someone behind Bakuto breathes a word that breaks the whole tutorial, Father. The spirit speaks of the spirit spring, the divine water they all chased across corpses and convoys, and Bakuto's jaw locks because of course it still exists, of course others are hunting it, of course the one man who knew everything chose now to be helpful. The red in his eyes isn't power anymore, it's the specific shade of a man who did not ask for this. The bald man stands under a sky too vast for memory, and he offers a key made of light, the literal coordinates to everything Bakuto came back from the dead to find. A key from a ghost who won't stop smiling, which is how you know this is about to hurt. Then the tone shifts because every good father in fiction has one final request, and this one is begging. Spare my children, he says, and the man saying it is already dead, already failed, already watching his own afterimage apologize for vanishing. The word father hangs in the dark like a debt nobody asked to inherit. Fuyu's hands are over her mouth because some silences you feel in your sternum before your brain catches underpowered. The spirit keeps smiling, keeps advising them to stop searching, to live peaceful lives, to be the children he couldn't raise, and somewhere in that advice is the confession that he broke something he couldn't fix. He says a name, Satoshi, and reaches out, and for one frame you think this might end with contact, with closure, with anything a son could keep. Then a gloved hand touches the light and the father dissolves into shards, still smiling, still reaching, still gone. They sit in a lounge that feels too normal, too fluorescent, too alive for what they just watched die twice. Bakuto thanks milliseconds. Yaemori with the flat politeness of a man who has run out of ways to say I am sorry this happened to you, and his smug mask slips back on like armor he never asked to wear. Fuyu offers to guide them tomorrow, and her smile is the kind you practice in mirrors so people stop asking if you're okay. Bakuto says understood in one flat word, and somewhere behind him glass cracks under pressure it was never built to hold. Cut to a man screaming about being made a fool, and the whiplash is intentional. This is what the world looks like when you're not watching Ghosts. He's surrounded by couch cushions and smaller men who know better than to make eye contact, and his rage is the petty kind that starts wars because ego is cheaper than therapy. Another voice rises, bandaged and furious, promising revenge in the exact cadence of a man who got his ear shot off and called it character development. He demands a phone like it's a weapon, which in this story it absolutely is. Every call is a deployment, every silence an ambush waiting its turn. A door opens on a woman with her hands clasped so tight her knuckles are white, and the man who greets her wears the expression of someone who has already decided the answer is no. She touches her cheek like she's holding her own face together, tears welling but not falling yet, the kind of control that costs extra. The shadowy figure asks with me, like it's a joke, and our guy's red eyes don't blink. He's doing the math on whether this is a trap, a transaction, or someone else's desperation he hasn't earned the right to ignore. Then she breaks, please save point my grandfather, and the room tilts from negotiation to confession. Cut to the grandfather coughing into his scarf, and Bakuto's internal monologue is already running the cost-benefit analysis. Money versus the spirit spring, the only resource that matters to a man rebuilding from stage 1 with stage 11 memories. He thinks normally I'd cooperate for the money, but hangs there like a door he already knows he's walking through. She smugs underpowered fast, of course, I won't ask you to do it for free, and pulls out a crescent-shaped heirloom that glows like it swallowed a piece of twilight. Bakuto's red eyes go wide and the panel catches him mid-question. Is this the purple heart vine? The kind of recognition that means this just became personal, not professional. The vine twists upward in a panel so luminous it hurts to look at, all purple and pink against a sky that doesn't exist in the real world. This is cultivation aesthetics. This is what happens when a plant grows next to a spirit spring for generations. Bakuto's already calculating. With this, I could speed underpowered my training, but his face falls, no healing talismans, no safety net, just the raw potential of something he's not equipped to use yet. Hard cut to an office that smells like old money and worse decisions. Come in, says a man with a mustache that has seen things, and behind him another figure holds a knife like it's a penetration he forgot to put down. The monocled man looks underpowered with an O. That carries 3 syllables of underestimation, and the reader who has seen this trope before knows. Someone is about to be very surprised about who the real predator is. Wakui with the bandaged ear serves coffee like this is still a normal Tuesday, but his question, Wakui, lands like a name being crossed off a list. Kamikache's mustache twitches. What are you planning? After the Bokuto Society, are you planning to bite your master? And the smug response doesn't even get a full panel before the room explodes into betrayal. Knives out, suits ruined, the classic Yakuza Tuesday, look around. Do these guys look like they are on your side? And Kamikache's men look underpowered with the slow dawning horror of people who just realized their pension plan involved the wrong kind of loyalty. Cut to Takagaki being told sorry, but I'm counting on you, which in this genre translates to please die dramatically so the plot can advance. Takagaki's leave it to me. This is my job. After all would hit different if we didn't already know the butler did it. And the shadowy figure raising a staff wreathed in purple-red energy confirms we're in the final act of someone's tragedy. Then that grim smile, of course. Sweat on the brow, eyes narrowed, the exact face a man makes when he knows the math and the math says he's already dead. Hashimoto lunges with that magenta aura and the grin of a man who enjoys his work too much, but the real violence is quieter, an older man choking out we've spent so much time together, while blood paints his collar. The sword comes down blue and bright, and someone screams who didn't expect to be the one screaming today. A head snaps back, Mouth agape in that particular shape of surprise that only happens when the body processes betrayal faster than the brain. And the gloved hand on the cane tightens with the resentment of decades. Spent time together, all you ever did was take credit for my hard work. The monocle flashes. The sword glows. And the man who poured coffee for 30 years becomes the man who writes the ending. The cane strikes flesh with the weight of every slight, every stolen promotion, every good work that belonged to someone else, and the man in the foreground watches because this is how you learn who runs the real game. Then the monocle, the smirk, the sword held loose like an afterthought. Don't be in such a hurry. Even I am no match for that man by Minamino's side. The kind of admission that isn't humility, it's threat assessment. Underpowered, a stone staircase that never ends, because apparently every secret in this genre lives at altitude. Kikui Fuyu is already gassed, hoodie-soaked, baseball cap doing absolutely nothing for her stamina. She's asking if it was always this high underpowered. The answer is yes, mountains are like that. Yaemori Bakuto, meanwhile, is barely breathing hard. Stage 2 cultivator perk, infinite cardio, the rest of us are still paying for gym memberships. Fuyu shouts that once they're done here she's heading to Kasumi-san's grandfather. Bakuto keeps walking, the man has priorities and they are not social calls. They reach the top, Fuyu drops her backpack like it personally offended her. Dust cloud, sound effect worthy of a bass drop. This is where Fuyu and her brother grew underpowered, their father's house, the place he called something she never finished saying. Traditional Japanese building, autumn foliage, the whole aesthetic. Underwater ruins visible beneath a stone platform because of course the childhood home has submerged lore. Two men stand under a wooden overhang. One of them has Bakuto's glowing red eyes. He's already scanning for spiritual residue like a bloodhound with a grudge. Golden energy arcs across the garden, something still active skill here, the father's protections or his regrets or both. Fuyu leads him to the main house, father's room. She knows it well but she's never seen anything locked. The key from the memory stone doesn't match any memory she has. Bakuto holds the key, red eyes narrow. He's already 3 steps ahead of whatever this place thinks it's hiding. Inside, nostalgia hits different. Fuyu remembers her father sitting in front of the statue every day, rarely going out with them. Whenever he stepped away, he always put something away. Ghostly children flicker in the corner of the panel. Memory echoes. A younger Fuyu crying that she could never beat her brother, ended underpowered running to father. The father's apparition, warm, bald, smiling, promises a candy apple at the festival. Don't tell Satoru favoritism but make it wholesome. The multi-armed deity statue dominates the room. Fierce expression, sword, dharma wheel, flames. Standard dad decor for stage 4 cultivator who sealed a spirit spring. Bakuto notices something off, bare feet on rock, a warrior figure in blue robes holding weapons. The statue's details shift when you're not looking directly at them. Fuyu crouches to examine the feet. Bakuto's red eyes catch the anomaly. A demon-like figure speaks from behind. His skill is far beyond what they imagined. A glowing blue hand reaches toward a 2-headed figure. The statue responds to spiritual pressure. This isn't art, it's a lock. Bakuto presses his palm against the barrier. Blue energy flares. The holographic projection of the multi-armed deity activates across the room. Fuyu's never seen anything like it. Bakuto identifies it immediately, spirit vessel. A forged artifact requiring stage 4 power to create. Her father wasn't just guarding the spring, he built the door. Flashback imagery, a bald man meditating in golden energy, the cultivation ladder spoken aloud. Stages 1 and 2 build spiritual power, techniques start at 3 or 4. A shadowy robed figure with a glowing brush, magical script swirling. The father's residual image, still teaching, still warning, still gone. Bakuto holds the key to his lips, contemplating. Then he and Fuyu stand before the dim building and the architectural blueprint of the entire structure projects itself in blue light. The key goes into a lock that shouldn't exist in a traditional Japanese house. Futuristic mechanism, glowing grid patterns, a multi-limbed box-headed spiritual construct materializes. Bakuto and Fuyu stare. Their expressions say, we expected a hidden room, not a whole-ass digital guardian. The father's aesthetic was complicated. The construct offers a red box. Inside, bright light then revealed, a wooden plaque inscribed with coordinates, 104 degrees 20 degrees, and a shriveled green object that might be organic, might be dead, might be both. Bakuto checks his phone, Fuyu checks hers. The coordinates map to a rough location not far, the father's final breadcrumb delivered posthumously with typical cultivator drama. Fuyu announces she's staying, wants to clean underpowered the shrine. There's a wild hot spring nearby. The woman just got coordinates to a possibly world-ending magical water source and she's thinking about baths. Cut to moonlit forest, sound of wind through leaves, a young man running, panicked, exhausted, not a cultivator, not armed, just scared. White energy blast erupts near his ear. He recoils, crouches behind a tree, military voices, camouflage armor, they're hunting him like game. Soldier in full tactical gear shouts a battle cry. Another with goatee and military cut grins with menace. This isn't a patrol, this is a sport. The boy, barefoot blonde, maybe 12, cowers in the dark, covers his face, bites his fist to keep from sobbing aloud, calls for his sister between breaths. Bruised hand against darkness, then both hands trembling holding a glowing green cicada-shaped pendant, the Reichai village heirloom, the saint's token, the thing that marks him as Sika's brother. 3 days in the forest in Bakuto, still coming underpowered, empty on the spirit spring. No signal, no Kai resonance, just mosquitoes and bad vibes. He's starting to wonder if the whole thing's already dried underpowered. Which would be peak irony, travel all this way for a power-underpowered fountain that's basically a seasonal limited release. Then something drops into his campfire radius from above. Not a leaf, not a bird, a whole-ass child flaming. Bakuto's red eyes clock the situation before his brain catches underpowered. Mercenaries in tactical gear, radio chatter, the whole paramilitary aesthetic. They're hunting this kid like it's open season. The soldiers don't even hesitate. This isn't a place for children, one says, rifle already underpowered. Buddy, you're the ones making it hostile. Bakuto moves, blue aura flares, gun gets snatched mid-sentence. 3 days of frustration plus armed men threatening a child, the math solves itself. He takes a hit, actually takes one, staggers, checks his own fist like did that just happen? The goatee and skullcap mercenary can't believe it either. Is he even human? Bakuto borrows their gun, points it back. I'm in a bad mood. Understatement of the arc, this man has been camping for 3 days. What follows is less a fight and more a stress test. Swords, shadow projectiles, blue energy blasts, Bakuto's working through his backlog of irritation on every soldier in range. The kid watches from the tree line, putting it together. Is he the one Sis was talking about, the heavenly god, the village legend, the guy who just pistol-whipped a mercenary with his own sidearm? Bakuto sighs, what a hassle. Classic protagonist energy, saves a child from armed soldiers, complains about the inconvenience. The boy doesn't waste the opening, he's from Raihai village, his sister's the village saint and she's been taken. He drops to his knees, begging. The desperation hits different when it's not about power or pills, just a kid who ran through a war zone because his sister's all he has left. Then Bakuto sees the pendant. Green cicada, glowing faintly, black cord, same design as the one in Fuyu's father's hidden box, same lineage, same heavenly god origin story. Bakuto pulls his own, more worn, same make, the kid's eyes go wide. Amazing, so you really are the heavenly god, the branding's been around longer than Bakuto's been alive. Generational heirloom passed down in Raihai village. The sister has the current one, which means whoever took her has the key to whatever the village has been guarding for centuries. Bakuto agrees, of course he does. The spirit springs already connected to this might be the same source, might be the lock this key opens. Either way, the Venn diagram overlaps. Cut to a full moon, a garage door, a muffled thud. Aoi Sika, the saint of Raihai village, long pink hair, green eyes, gray robe thrown against tile, gagged, bound. The captors aren't subtle about their hospitality. A boot stomps near her head, shockwave on the floor. Whoever's running this operation wants her scared, cooperative, broken enough to talk about whatever the village has been keeping secret. The masked figure watching from the chair doesn't move. Just sits there, green eyes glowing through the mask, faint blue energy leaking from the left eye, observing, cataloging, waiting for the saint to crack. The military base sprawls below like a bad urban planning decision, watchtowers, fuel tanks, enough vehicles to stage a small coup. Bakuto's red eyes catalog the layout in one sweep. 3 days of forest camping, and now he's doing tactical recon in a blue jacket with a child sidekick. The continent's strongest has really come down in the world. He pulls out the golden ring, the one from Ama Joe's corpse, the spirit vessel shapeshifter tool. Looks like, he mutters, already planning the wear and tear on someone else's face. First perimeter guard never sees it coming. Cigarette still in hand, mouth open, neck struck by a glowing fist. Bakuto doesn't kill him, just borrows the uniform. The dragon drop through the foliage is methodical. One unconscious soldier over the shoulder, dumped in the underbrush. Another uniform acquired. Bakuto's done this before, different continent, same math. He emerges from the tree line in full camo, hand on some grunt's shoulder, asking about Iwao like they are old barracks buddies. The disguise holds because nobody expects a cultivator to bother with petty infiltration. Night falls, the base shifts to perimeter watch, two guards walking into bright backlight, silhouettes perfect for not noticing details. Bakuto's timing remains obnoxiously precise. The gate guard has a bandaged nose and a skeptic squint. Let's see your ID. Bakuto's already palmed someone else's card, the pickpocketing skill from Chapter 2 finally getting mileage. The card passes, embarrassed laughter handshakes, I'm embarrassed enough as it is. The bandaged guard Katayama, if the compassion cues hold, leans in with intel on the sister's location. That's probably where your sister is. Then the warning, be careful, if you mess underpowered you're dead. Katayama's eyes say he's not threatening, he's pleading, defector energy confirmed. Inside, the cell block breathes despair. Three men slumped against a wall, heads thrown back, waiting for whatever comes next. Bakuto observes from shadow, counting patrol intervals. Is that her? The guard points through bars at a figure in white, sunlit through a high window. Aoisika, pink hair, green eyes, the saint of Reichai village, collapsed on the floor like discarded laundry. Bakuto's calculation shifts from extraction to damage control. Too many eyes, too many rifles, and the prisoner can't run. He clasps hands with someone behind bars, a promise, a signal, a debt being called. The masked figure with red eyes points forward, surrounded by dark tendrils. Not Bakuto's usual aesthetic, the golden ring's doing its job, projecting someone else's spiritual signature. Ama Joe's face, Bakuto's vengeance. Cut to Kikui Fuyu on floating stones, hoodie and cap, looking worried. I don't think anything bad happened to him, but the gate behind her stands open to bright sky. She's not where Bakuto left her. Huh, what happened to you? Someone surprised by Bakuto's condition or his face. The ring's holding, but the spiritual strain shows in purple aura bleeding through the disguise. The wounded man supported by a woman, Amatani Yuki, blue kai leaking uncontrollably from her body, still not fully healed from that flawed cultivation method. She's here somehow in the base's vicinity. And the scarred man with glowing blue-green eyes, warning about Yasuke and the others being in danger. The Bokutakai subplot catching underpowered, Minamino's enforcers, captured, tortured, while Bakuto's playing dress underpowered in a military compound. The Venn diagram of problems keeps overlapping. Spirit Spring, Village Saint, Bokutakai prisoners, Life Force drug operation, all threads converging on one base, one night, one cultivator who's running out of disguises. Katayama's hand is still mid-shake when the voice hits him from behind. Katayama, that's what you call standing guard. The smile freezes, Daiki's red eyes don't blink, don't forgive, the consul's little brother running his personal playground of broken prisoners. Katayama's apology comes out automatic soldier reflex, but his eyes flick to the cell bars behind him, calculation, not contrition. The defector math is getting simpler by the hour. Inside the cell, a man grabs the bars like they are the only solid thing left. The hand reaching toward him holds a small rectangle, cigarette, maybe, last meal lottery. Daiki's rage doesn't need a target. When did my brother ever order you to do that? The question nobody answers because the answer is never. The consul doesn't know half of what happens here. The soldier stammers. Daiki grabs him by the collar. Shut it, you've ruined my fun for days now. And the math is simple. This base runs on boredom and boredom runs on other people's pain. The bald man's tongue hangs out, eyes locked on the cell block like he's picking a snack. Which one should I play with today? The air quotes around play doing violent heavy lifting. The blue-haired woman in the corner, not a prisoner, not quite staff, leaking that uncontrolled kai from every pore, gets grabbed by a brown-haired woman who's seen this rotation before. The last girl died before I really got to enjoy myself. Boring. The bandaged figure on the ground doesn't have a name in this room, just a number that expired. The burly guard looks down like he's checking a delivery. Fist meets bandaged arm. The impact sound, a low, droning go-go, fills the panel like a warning label. Some violence doesn't need translation. The gasping man, face erased by blood and grime, has reached the point where pain becomes geography, something you inhabit, not feel. Daiki's green uniform is spotless. I taught you a lesson last time, didn't get through to you, huh? The eternal question of every failed teacher, every successful torturer. The bandaged-faced soldier clutches his head like he's trying to hold his skull together. Iwao, the name escapes, a prayer or a curse. Another soldier lunges. The yes sir chorus behind him, automatic as breathing as dying. The system runs on voices that stopped asking questions. The snarling man with bared teeth, generic rage, interchangeable face, same uniform as the last one. The base breeds them in batches. Energy burst, blood on commo. The soldier who got hit looks surprised, which is almost funny. You signed underpowered for this, didn't you? The fine print on military contractor doesn't cover what you're contracting. Multiple boots, one target on the ground. Idiot. The word they use when the victim won't stop being victim-shaped. The beating continues because stopping would require admitting it started. The heavyset man in green smiles like he's watching a show he paid for. The gray coat figure with pink head covering, unconscious on the floor, Fuyu's hood, Fuyu's colors, the briefcase woman who led Bakuto here, now another piece of inventory. You can't, not her. The pleading guard reaches toward the tactical gear men and the mask-eyed figure cuts him off. There won't be any real problem, but it kills the mood if someone interrupts. Mood management, priority 1. The bandaged-nosed man, Katayama, still playing both sides, still bleeding from both, groans NGH. Understood. The boot over him doesn't move. Understanding is the first step toward complicity. Two gloved hands slam the blue wall. The energy erupts from below, not from outside, not from above. From below, something's been waiting. Red eyes in shadow. The rage isn't Daiki's this time, it's older, colder, carrying a continent's worth of betrayal behind it. Bakuto's patience has reached its term limit. Empty theater, blue beam shooting upward from the flat surface, a screen, a stage, a declaration. The performance is about to start and the audience doesn't know they are in it. Huh, why are you still here? I told you to get out. The overweight soldier, still playing authority, still not reading the room is reading him. Gloved hand on metal bar, bright flash. The latch turns and the figure in Kamo, not base Kamo, borrowed Kamo, Bakuto's Kamo, steps through like he owns the architecture. If you value your life, get out, now. The shaved head goatee man shouting at the wrong person in the wrong direction at the wrong century. The warning system is broken, it keeps warning the victims. Get out, the blue-hued figure asks and the mask with red eyes answers, you've still got something to do first. The tone of someone who's been keeping a list, checking it twice. No one is leaving this place. Bakuto's voice, finally unfiltered, finally unmasked. The middle finger is just punctuation, the grammar of someone who's done negotiating. The distorted face screams, finish him already, but Daiki's already calculating the sentence, the paperwork, the brother who makes problems disappear. Murder carries a heavy sentence, can't you at least make this a little easier on us? The bureaucrat's prayer, even in blood. Ha, who cares about murder? My brother's the consul. Daiki's entire philosophy in one breath. Nepotism as armor, connections as immortality. The New World ability users brought their Old World corruption with them. The cloaked figure with blue markings lunges, some ally, some prisoner who found their footing, some variable Bakuto didn't account for and doesn't need to. The math is crowds now, chaos as coefficient. Die bastard, fist meets mask, meets the face behind the mask, meets the red eyes that don't flinch. Bakuto takes the hit like he's collecting data. Stage 2, post-cloud shadow step against a brute with borrowed power and a brother's phone number. He lunges, energy blast. The sharp whip crack of something cutting air that shouldn't be cut, Kai compressed to audible, visible, undeniable. The continent's strongest, finally not pretending. White light, blue energy. The blinding sequence of someone who doesn't need to see his target to hit it, muscle memory from 50 years of war, one demon king, one masked woman, one betrayal that started all of this. Blade in hand, blue aura framing red eyes. The cylindrical object, gun, baton, irrelevant, gets gripped, gets crushed, gets forgotten. Bakuto's weapon is whatever's nearest. His real weapon is the century of practice. What? The last word of someone who thought they understood the threat matrix. The blue energy hand closing on their face says otherwise. Comprehension arrives on delay. The falling opponent, the rising fist, the red eyes that don't celebrate. This is maintenance, not victory. Another variable removed from the board. Another step toward the cell block, the prisoners, the saint of Reichai village who doesn't know she's about to have a very unexpected visitor. Curved blade spins through blue energy. Two figures clash and the sound, a heavy dogo, is the universe's way of saying pay attention. The scythe or sickle, some prison-issue weapon or cultivated artifact, doesn't matter. What matters is who's holding it and who isn't falling. I told you, no one is getting out of here. Bakuto, close underpowered, the smug finally cracking through the deadpan. The base that refined human life force into product just met someone who treats human cruelty as inventory to be liquidated. The consul's brother picked the wrong continent's champion for his playground. The bandaged soldier behind bars reaches like he still thinks the architecture owes him something. It doesn't. Combat boot drives a knife into concrete. Not a person, the floor. Someone's establishing dominance over building materials. Red eyes in shadow, weapon ready. Bakuto's done pretending to be a prisoner, done pretending to be a guard, done pretending period. Another soldier cracks the floor beneath a downed opponent. The base's renovation budget is taking a beating today. Bakuto falls through air with blue aura trailing, motion blur doing what camouflage couldn't, making him unreadable. Three soldiers finally coordinate. Draw your guns, the universal subtitle for "We've run out of ideas." Daiki's face full fury, full disbelief. Where the hell did he come from? Same question everyone asks every time, every chapter. Two soldiers watch a third fire energy from a weapon that definitely wasn't standard issue. Someone's been shopping in the black market. Blinding clash, the kind of light that makes you wonder if the artist got tired of drawing backgrounds and called it an explosion. White energy blast from camouflage armor. The base's power grid is jealous it never got this bright. Bakuto lunges at a gun-firing soldier. Red eyes don't flinch at muzzle flash anymore. Stage 2, post-cloud shadow step against men who still think bullets are the conversation. Gloved hand on throat, the soldier's neck makes a sound, not a good sound, not a survivable sound. Blood sprays from digital commo, another inventory item marked expended. The portly man in green looks underpowered at a towering figure, shock on a face that thought it was done being shocked today. Bakuto, blue aura, red eyes, the full signature look. You're the last one, not a threat, a census update. Kneeling soldier held by neck, bloody knife in frame. The last one isn't walking out, none of them were. The overweight man in green yells about his brother the consul. Nepotism as armor, connections as immortality. The New World ability users brought their Old World corruption with them. Goatee, mustache, crackling energy around his hand. Someone's been holding back. Someone's about to learn it wasn't enough. Stern face, red eyes, the question, an ability user from the New World. Bakuto recognizes the phrase like a bad cover song. Same tune, worse production value. The large man offers a deal, become an ability user, join the refinement operation. The sales pitch of a man who thinks power is a recruitment funnel. Prison bars yelling the desperate logic of a hostage taker who became a hostage. With them, we can keep refining it. The it is people, the it was always people. Bakuto ponders, absorbing life force, finds it familiar. The continent's vocabulary bleeding into this world's pharmaceutical marketing. Hand reaching from purple aura, grasping upward, the visual language of cultivation without the brand safety. Bakuto in Kamo, red eyes, spectral mad scientist looming behind him. The past life's trauma doing guest vocals on the present life's revenge track. Bandaged soldier crouches, looks at his hands, says no way. The correct response, the only response. Another soldier questions if these are supposed to be hostages. The operation's internal logic is fraying. The help is noticing the product is people. Large man in green, smug, speaking to someone's back. Confidence in a room where confidence has a 100% casualty rate. Impact face contorting, the moment between I have the upper hand and the upper hand was a hologram. Blue energy blast, arm swinging forward. The shoe, the gogogo, the dogo of someone who doesn't need to name his techniques anymore. Shadow figure with wing appendages, rapid movement. Not Bakuto's technique, the base's own experiments, its own monsters, its own receipts coming due. Overweight soldier in green, impaled by ice shards from the wall. The architecture is finally choosing sides. Black liquid pooling around green pants, the refinement process reversed, input becoming output. Bakuto, red eyes, spiky hair, Kamo turtleneck. The disguise held long enough to matter, not long enough to matter to him. You're not Iwao, are you? Who the hell are you? The question everyone asks when the mask comes off. The answer's always worse than they imagined. Hand tightens around glowing ring, blue energy emitting. The spirit vessel ring from Ama Joe's collection, repurposed, recharged, ready for its second act. I'm Yaemori Bakuto. First in caption self-introduction, chapter 42, 50 chapters of war, one demon king, one masked woman, one betrayal, and he still leads with the name. I came here to save point someone, are you planning to stand in my way? Rhetorical question, the standing is already over. Bandaged soldier exhales, resigned, like I could stop you, finally someone who reads the room. Three bruised men look underpowered, shock and fear. The prisoners watching the prison break from the wrong side of the bars. Punch with bright flash, the negotiation phase is over, was never really on. Blinding white explosion, two figures clashing. The bar of impact compressed to single-syllable onomatopoeia. In that case, remove everyone's restraints. Bakuto, delegating, the bandaged-nosed soldier finally gets his promotion from beating victim to key holder. You're Yaeshigemori, right? The name's wrong in the caption, the face is right. Long pink hair, green eyes, gray robe with green sash. Aoisika, saint of Reichai village, found in a sunlit cell. Dark-haired man grabs her from behind, blade to neck. Your little brother asked me, and I had a few things I wanted to ask you myself. Manji, you know Manji, Mongji's name, garbled by translation, clear enough in context. Three men behind bars, distressed. The other prisoners watching the rescue become a hostage negotiation. Bandaged-nosed soldier, dirt-streaked, surprised. This is Warehouse D. Yeah, behind it is the outside, but the but is always where the interesting information lies. Soldier shouts, looks underpowered, dark hair peeks from behind. Someone's using the vertical axis. Cloud shadow step in 3 dimensions. Blue energy from hands, looking underpowered at giant cracked crystalline structure. Are you really human? The question Bakuto stopped asking himself chapters ago. All right, let's go. Bakuto, blue trench coat, red eyes, the crystalline structure can wait, the saint can't. Even now, you still want to stay with them? Asked of the bandaged-nosed soldier. The them is the base, the operation, the brother who made consul. Teal sweater, concern, visored soldier, silent. The moment before defection becomes decision. Bakuto thinking, slight frown, the pause that means he's calculating something the panel isn't showing. I've decided, I'm coming with you. The bandaged-nosed soldier, finally named by action if not by caption. Katayama, compassionate guard, defector, newest variable. City skyline engulfed in flames. Cut to Ryuja, the Bokutakai's territory burning while Bakuto's still in the base. Move, get out of here now, ag. Civilians fleeing, building burning, the chaos that happens when the protagonist is 2 plot lines away. 2 men with torch, luxurious interior ablaze. The Kamikaze faction's redecorating budget is excessive. Talk, where is Minamino? Someone demanding information the bound men don't have or won't give or will die not giving. 2 men suspended by bound hands, third man looking down menacingly. Yasuke and Koya, the golden flame and the calm, captured hanging, still laughing. Red hair, black headband, looking down at blue-haired bound man. Come closer, I'll whisper it to you. Yasuke's mouth still running, still hot-headed, still Yasuke even in ropes. Brown suit, whip, smug grin. Takagaki's subordinate playing bad cop while Takagaki drinks wine and watches. Red-haired headband strikes from behind. The bound still fighting, still paired, still as expected. My brother and I make a perfect team, ha ha ha. Yasuke and Koya laughing at torture. Bandaged man in brown jacket yells, you bastard. Wakui, ear bandaged from Minamino's bullet, still nursing the grudge, still losing. Damn you, whip swing, rage without target. The torturer's frustration, they won't break, won't talk, won't stop laughing. Take Gaki Hisanaga, named in caption, rogue cultivator, wine glass, condescending. It's almost pitiful. The butler who killed his master, now overseeing the master's enemies. Wine glass close underpowered, the red liquid could be wine, could be something else. In this story, the ambiguity is intentional. Monocle, cruel smile, but if they think we can't make them talk, they're sorely mistaken. Takagaki's philosophy, everyone talks eventually, everyone's wrong eventually. Scarred, partially decayed face, glowing blue eyes, smoke rising. The senior disciple Takagaki's been waiting for. The scarred man from the Caneblade betrayal, the next arc's opening act already on stage. The masked figure with the red cross pattern and glowing eyes has been moving through this base like a ghost with a grudge, and the guards are only now realizing they should be terrified. A man in a suit reports that someone smashed it with their fist, as if that's a normal thing to say about what is apparently a reinforced barrier of some kind. The base is reacting the way any organization does when someone impersonates a dead officer named Iwao and then starts breaking things. 3 guards on a cliffside stare down at a figure they've already decided isn't a normal casualty, while inside, a blond man whose face stays in shadow gives the order to cover it up. The masked figure's face cuts through the shadow like he's daring the base's cameras to catch him properly, one red eye glowing behind the Red Cross mask, the rest of him invisible. The guards bowing to him haven't figured out yet that the person they're helping is the one who's going to tear this place down from the inside. Someone screams for more strength to be applied while a hand grips an arm, and a guard in camouflage looks frustrated, the kind of frustration that comes from realizing the situation is slipping. The masked figure just tells everyone it'll take a little longer, which is Bakuto's way of saying he's already won and is just waiting for the rest of them to catch up. The masked figure with the red cross pattern doesn't wait for permission. He lunges forward with a dark energy strike that turns 3 silhouetted figures into a single blinding white flash. A man in a blue uniform stares at his tablet and starts a sentence he's never going to finish, because the masked figure is already turning to face the next problem. Cut to the aftermath, not the base but the forest, where a dark-haired young man leads a group of escapees through the trees and calls a 3-minute rest. An elderly woman is being supported by two men, one of them in military gear promising to find treatment, and the group looks like they've been through a war that hasn't technically ended yet. Yaeshigemori steps onto the path and calls out a name, Manji, and suddenly the forest meeting becomes a reunion. The spiky-haired young man who's been leading the group pulls her into a hug, relief thick in his voice, because finding her alive means his mission in this forest still has a point. A man in a green tactical vest asks Bakuto what the plan is now, and Bakuto, still standing in a blue-tinted forest with his eyes glowing red, admits the shrine he knows is still a long way from here. Yaeshigemori, saint of Raihai village, steps forward with an offer that changes everything. Her village is close by, hidden from outsiders, and she'll lead them there. Bakuto asks the guard beside him, Katayama, the defector who chose to leave everything behind, whether the villagers will be wary of strangers. Yaeshigemori and her brother Manji stand together in the forest, and she pledges to honor Bakuto's will above all else, which is a lot of weight to put on a man who just wanted to find a shrine and some divine water. Katayama looks at Bakuto and asks if he's the heavenly god, which is the kind of question that either ends a career or starts a cult. Bakuto shuts it down immediately. He just happened to have that pendant. He's not their deity, call him Yaemori, and by the way, he helped because he needs something from their village. Yaeshigemori's eyes go wide as the pieces click together. The pendant, the strength, the timing. She asks if he means the source of the divine water. Bakuto's simple right confirms everything, and Seika explains that her ancestors kept that location secret for generations, waiting for the heavenly god who was prophesied to arrive. Bakuto accepts with visible relief, all right, that would really help, and the group presses on through the night under a full moon. The forest opens up, the dawn call comes, and for a brief moment it feels like they're actually going to make it. Then the scene shifts indoors and the tone changes completely. Fuyu and Rei stand beside a bed where a figure lies wrapped in bandages from head to toe, and she asks how all of this happened in just 3 days, which means while Bakuto was infiltrating the base, another disaster was already unfolding. A man with purple hair describes the scene: fires, killing, looting, hostages. Kasumi Rei covers her ears in distress as she names Minamino, Yasuke, and others who fell when the attack came. The invasion of Ryuja happened the moment Bakuto's group left, which means someone was watching and waiting for the opening. Fuyu demands to know whether Kamikaze let this happen, and the silence that follows tells you everything. Kamikaze either stood by or had already been neutralized, because Wakui's forces teamed up with Hanadete's people and took over the entire city. The bandaged man lying in bed, Minamino Satoru, confirms it: Hanadete's faction and Wakui together, and he couldn't stop them. Kikui curses Wakui as beyond saving, and the question turns to where Yaemori is, because of course everyone in this room is thinking the same thing. If Bakuto were here, this wouldn't have happened. But Minamino shuts that hope down with quiet finality. This is their problem, not his. He says he brought that box, the one from earlier, the one everyone in the room seems to know about, and reaches for it while Kikui Fuyu asks what's inside with visible worry in her voice. The chapter ends with Minamino sitting motionless in bed, a laptop balanced in his hands, staring blankly at whatever he's about to open. The conversation starts mid-sentence, which means these two women have been talking about this box for a while before we dropped in. One of them asks if the other remembers the temple where the thing was sealed, not what it was, just where, and an off-panel voice confirms with a casual right, as if they're discussing a grocery run instead of a buried artifact that made a monk look genuinely afraid. The woman in the black cap and gray hoodie, that's Kikui Fuyu, hood down, just here to listen, sits in on this conversation without interrupting. She's the kind of person who lets people finish before asking the obvious question about what the monks were so scared to hand over. Flashback: a monk in red and tan robes holds a dark wooden box while two others stand behind him in prayer. The woman in tactical gear says the head monk's expression was strange. The caption clarifies: he seemed afraid of what he was handing over, which is a special kind of dread coming from someone who spends their life around cursed cultivation artifacts. Minamino Satoru, Fuyu's older brother, the Bokuto leader bandaged from his last fight, picks up the thread. The head monk is the one who put the object inside the box. He's holding a metal case as he says it, and you can already tell from the way his bandaged fingers rest on the latch that he's about to open it in front of everyone. The case opens with a sound effect that the artist rendered as 2 sharp syllables, the kind of noise that means a lock has just surrendered. Inside the white-lined black briefcase lies a severed human hand wrapped entirely in black bandages, covered in red glowing runes that pulse like they are alive. Fuyu's mouth falls open. Kasumi Rei beside her covers her own mouth, and neither of them needs to say the obvious thing that this is not a normal artifact, not something you find in a temple relic room. This is a body part with its own will, wrapped like a mummy and glowing like a threat. The bandaged young man explains what the artifact is capable of, and the narration takes us back to a temple where a monk with glowing purple eyes unleashes a surge of energy that levels the building behind him. The flashback doesn't tell you who that monk was or what he'd done to deserve sealing the hand away. It just shows you the scale of the destruction and dares you to look away. Cut back to the present. Minamino sits alone on a bed, staring down at his own black-wrapped hand as if he's about to weigh it against the artifact. The silence around him says he's already made the decision. This is just the moment he lets himself feel the weight of it. A silhouetted figure stands atop shattered stone rubble under a red sky, engulfed in dark swirling energy. The narration finishes, and destroyed everything in sight, which is the kind of closing statement that makes you want to ask follow-up questions like whose hand is that and who put it in a box, and why did anyone think opening the box was a good idea? Fuyu's eyes widen as her brother's dark, vein-streaked hand reaches for the artifact, and she calls out, "Big brother, don't tell me." Because the bandaged man is Minamino Satoru, her older brother, and she already knows he's about to do something she can't stop. A bandaged arm reaches out and grabs the blackened red-patterned object, the rune hand, and Minamino leans against a white surface, holding it like he's already claimed it. He says that's right with the calm of someone who has stopped arguing with himself about this. The close-up on his face hits you with glowing green eyes and a declaration that cuts through any remaining hope his friends had. "I'm going to use this to get revenge." No qualifiers, no maybe, just a flat statement from a man whose body is already half-wrapped in bandages from the last fight he lost. The room shifts and we see a figure bound by black cords or wires, a visual of what the artifact does to a host whose will is weaker than its own. Fuyu in the gray hoodie reaches toward her brother trying to say something, but the conversation is beyond intervention at this point. Someone offers to take the burden instead, "Then let me use it. My body's still fine," but Minamino cuts them off mid-syllable with a flat no. The refusal lands like a door slamming shut, no room for negotiation, no softening. The bandaged young man looks at his wrapped arm and explains the brutal math. Half his body is already at cultivation stage 1, while the one offering is still just a normal human. The artifact would tear through them like paper. Cold, clinical, and exactly why no one else can take this. Kasumi, Rei, and Fuyu, watching, share a reaction panel that says everything words can't. They know Minamino is going to see this through whether they support him or not, and that knowledge sits on their faces like a weight they've been carrying for days. Minamino, surrounded by swirling red and black energy, grits his teeth. Nothing is guaranteed. Controlling this kind of power requires a will stronger than anything else. He knows this firsthand. The red glow in his eyes is the artifact's energy testing him, and he's holding it back with sheer stubbornness. A bandaged hand grips a weapon while red energy swirls violently around a figure's face, and the narration warns, "And when two minds clash head-on." The sentence cuts off, but the image fills in the rest. The artifact has its own consciousness and it fights back against the user. A hand clamps around another character's throat, both figures engulfed in red energy, both sets of eyes glowing with the same berserk light. This is the worst-case outcome. The artifact takes over, and the person wielding it stops being themselves and starts being a weapon pointed at whoever is closest. Minamino stands inside a column of swirling red-black energy, and for a beat you can't tell whether he's still in control or the artifact is already wearing his face. The panel feels like a freeze frame from a horror movie right before the protagonist makes the wrong choice. The scene resets to a bedside. Kasumi, Rei, and Fuyu look down with concern at Minamino, wrapped entirely in bandages, the aftermath of whatever just happened, or maybe the current state of the bandaged young man before he even touched the artifact. Either way, the worry in their eyes is the same. They're watching someone they care about walk towards self-destruction. Extreme close-up of Minamino's face, manic wide grin, glowing red eyes, face covered in sweat and blood. The breathing sound effects tell you this isn't a controlled power-up. This is someone who made contact with the artifact and is now trying to hold on to himself while it screams in his head. Minamino closes the argument with 5 words and a stare. "I'm the one who's going to win." His green eyes glow with a certainty that has nothing to do with actual odds and everything to do with refusing to let anyone else take the burden. It's the kind of line that sounds like hubris but tastes like self-sacrifice. Scene shift, a wooden floor, a thought bubble. It's already been 4 days since Seika and Manji disappeared. The narration switches to a traditional Japanese room where an elderly man rests his head on his hand, weary from waiting. The village leadership has been tracking this disappearance for nearly a week, and none of them know that Aoyike Seika has already been found. Dramatic irony laid out like a carpet we're about to roll up. A muscular man in a pinkish-red sleeveless robe sits at the same table and expresses doubt that the saint was actually taken, the kind of denial that comes from wanting to believe the situation is under control. The elderly man with the braided white beard rests his chin on his hand, too tired even to argue back. A shout of "Village Chief" breaks the tension, and a man in brown traditional attire bursts through a sliding door without waiting to be announced. The elderly chief turns toward the intruder, and you can see the shift in his posture. The waiting is over, one way or another. A young man in brown robes shouts with excitement. The saint has returned, and she's brought others with her. The news lands like a thunderclap in the council room. One elder bursts into laughter, another stares in wide-eyed shock. The village has been holding its breath for 4 days, and someone just told them they can finally exhale. The returning group enters the traditional estate courtyard. A pink-haired woman leads the way, flanked by men in military camouflage that immediately raises eyebrows among the villagers. A young man with an earring spots the uniforms and voices the obvious fear. Those are mercenary uniforms. Are they here to take over the village? Which is a fair question given that the last time outsiders showed up in force, it was to kidnap their saint. Yaeshigemori, pink hair, green eyes, back in the village she was stolen from, tells the chief and Uncle Damu that they won't believe who they met. The elder looks around in confusion. Where is this heavenly god of yours? Because the villagers have been told a prophesied savior walked in with their saint, but the only new faces they see are exhausted escapees and a guy with a gray hoodie who doesn't look particularly divine. Yaemori Bakuto holds up the green cicada pendant, Manji's identifier, the same one that sent him on this path, and says the honest thing. Possessing the pendant doesn't make him the heavenly god. It's the kind of deflation that would disappoint a prophecy-believing village, but Bakuto has never been comfortable being worshipped, and he's not about to start now. The elderly chief's eyes widen as he registers the pendant's authenticity. The old stories from their ancestors weren't lies, they were waiting for this exact moment. Villagers erupt in joy and tears, declaring the village is truly saved. It's been 4 days of fear and uncertainty, and suddenly the heavenly god is standing in their courtyard holding a token that matches their oral tradition perfectly. Yaeshigemori steps up to vouch for Bakuto publicly. She explains that he saved people who were being used as test subjects by bad men and that she offered them shelter of her own accord. The testimony seals the deal. The villagers now see Bakuto not just as the pendant bearer, but as someone who has already done the work their prophecy predicted. The elderly chief's expression shifts from wonder to concern, but with the village the way it is now, and the sentence trails off, leaving the problem unnamed but clearly present. Whatever crisis Raihai village is facing, it's still unresolved, and the heavenly god's arrival means the clock on that problem just started ticking louder. Out in the courtyard, a muscular man with a top knot and a bald elderly man discuss logistics. The village can gather what the group needs, and it should be fine. A voice shouts gratitude against the blue sky, and the tension of the base escape gives way to the relief of being somewhere safe, at least for the night. The man in digital camouflage, Katayama, stands expressionless in the courtyard, a reminder that not everyone in this group belongs to Bakuto's inner circle. The village has taken in former military guards who were part of the same base that held their saint captive, and that dissonance isn't going away with a single feast announcement.